Whether the team is performing clean or unsightly, we'll cover it all here on Washington Football Nightly. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So I was watching this game over again, and I couldn't help but think to myself, and I alluded to this, I think yesterday, maybe the day before, and I said we would talk about it on tonight's show. And I thought about this team and what we thought they were going to be coming into the season. You know, an offense that's scrappy, that does what it needs to do, a defense that's dominant, that's going to force turnovers, limit the other team's possessions, get off the field on third downs, be strong in the red zone. This is the kind of performance that we had against the Buccaneers. Is the kind of team that we thought we were getting at the jump of this season, at the very beginning. Week 1 versus the Chargers, coming out of the gate. This is the team that we thought we were going to get. I can't speak for you, but speaking for myself, I thought that the performance against Tampa Bay was more or less what we were going to see from this team week 1, right out of the gate. Now, would that have been enough to win the division? Were we going to be able to keep pace with Dallas in the torrid pace that they've come out of the gates with this season and how they've started off at 7-2? I don't know. I doubt it. I don't think even if we would have played this brand of football this season that we would have been at 7-2, but we would have been at, 5-4 right now, maybe, and just a couple of games back of Dallas in the division. If you think about some of the games that we've lost that we could have won, New Orleans comes to mind. The Chiefs game comes to mind. The Packers game is another one, even though I thought the defense played well enough for us to win in that game as well. Those two in particular, the defense played well enough, even though third downs was alarming, and it turned out to be a real thing. And and alarm bells went off in week 1. If you recall, we talked about whoa, what the hell is that defensively? We only gave up 20 points in that game, and 7 of them you could pretty much charge to the account of the offense because Antonio Gibson fumbled at the 4-yard line. They weren't great defensively, but we only gave up, because they generated 2 turnovers in the red zone, we only gave up 20 points. It was a sign of things to come, though, that they could, the Chargers could convert as many third downs as they did, and they could move the football up and down the field as well as they did. That was a sign of things to come. But had we played defense the way that we did in this game, and offense, complementary football, we've heard that time and time again, not just this season, last season, and, we're going to hear it a lot more. That's one of the things you hear from teams when things are going well or when things aren't going well. We need to play complementary football. Defense picks up the offense when the offense makes a mistake. Defense gets a 3-and-out, creates a short field. Offense takes that short field, deposits football into end zone. Complementary football. Special teams gets a great punt from Tress Way. It's down at the 3-yard line. You need to go out there as a defense, get a stop, force a 3-and-out. Punter's punting from inside the end zone with his heel barely in front of out of bounds. And your punter or your punt returner fields the football in opposition territory. That's what happened to us. If you recall, Taylor Heinecke sacked at the 2-yard line. He tries to throw a deep ball, almost gets picked off. Tress Way punts from literally with his heel this far away from the back end line. Jalen Darden catches the football, and the Bucs are in Washington territory to start their drive that they ultimately score a touchdown on to start their first touchdown of the second half. That's complementary football. So this is what we thought we were going to get. Now the question is it sustainable? Is this something that we can do moving forward? I think we all believe the answer, not all, a lot of us believe the answer is yes, because this isn't something, and someone made a comment, and I told you I read every single comment in the comment section. I may not always respond, but I see it. Even the bullshit ones, even the ones that are trolling, I see them. And contrary to popular belief, I don't delete any of them. Someone else may do it. I've got other admins and people that have the ability to do that. I don't delete anything. Even if you're saying something derogatory about me, I don't give a shit. I'm not going to delete it. I'm not going to waste time going through, and it is what it is. You know, the bottom line is we're going to address a couple of comments that I read later on in the social media maneuvers portion of the show. But this is what we thought we were getting. I can speak for myself. I can't speak for you. This is what I thought the team would look like. Scrappy defensively, get after the quarterback a little bit, force some punts, get off the field on third downs, force the occasional turnover. And this is the offense that I thought we would get, some semblance of it, you know? Be able to run it a little bit, make timely plays, convert on third downs. This is actually a little bit better than what I thought we were going to get on offense. I'm not going to sit here and act like I thought we were going to be a 30 point per game team, which is what we essentially scored in this game, 29, and that we were going to be able to convert third downs at an 11 for 19 clip. That's not what I had in my mind when this team was being assembled, and knowing that Curtis Samuel was out and some of the guys that we had. I didn't think that this offense would be prolific to the point where we'd be scoring 30 a game. Remember, I was like, look, if we could just score 25 a game, I'm fine with that. So I can't say from the offensive perspective that this is what I expected. Like, hey, you know, the Bucs couldn't stop us, literally. We stopped ourselves in this game. There were only maybe one or two possessions where the Bucs actually dominated us defensively. Otherwise, if something didn't go right, it was because of us. Think about that first possession, right? We're moving it down the field after the 3-and-out, and Ricky Seals-Jones has a ball go right through his hands on third down. That would have been a first down, and the sticks would have kept moving, and we might have come out of that possession with a touchdown. Instead, it goes right through his hands. We got to settle for a field goal. You have a second down. I want to say it was a second down, Taylor Heinecke stupid sack that he took where all he had to do was throw the ball out of bounds. Brings up a 3rd and 14. He then ultimately runs. Matter of fact, I tell a story. It was a toss. And some people, you know, I was in the MOBB and somebody said, oh my God, what a bad call by Scott Turner. No, it wasn't. It's a hell of a play by Antoine Winfield. You pitch that thing out there, you're not expecting the safety to be coming downhill that fast in the backfield to tackle you for a 6-yard loss. What? It's a hell of a play. Now it's 3rd and 14. Heinecke runs for 11. You got to settle for another field goal. Those were the kind of plays that ended drives. But if we can get these types of performances, this is what I thought we would be coming into the season, especially defensively. They were supposed to be the anchor. If we can get this moving forward, at least this defensive type of performance, and the offense simply takes care of the football and continues to move it, and we get some stability in the field goal kicking department. Again, I don't want to go crazy with Joey Sly. I refuse to. I've seen this story before. I'm hoping that this one has a different ending. However, I'm encouraged. And I told you when we lost to Green Bay, I said, this is the most encouraged I've been after a loss in a long time. I told you guys that. Felt good after the Green Bay loss. And I hate losing, and there aren't many times that you're going to be able to pull a ton of teachable moments and silver linings out of a loss. Okay? But that was one of those games where I said, you know what? If we play like that, and I told you guys this, if we play that way, moving forward, I remember vividly saying, if we play that way against Denver, but we put it in the end zone, we're going to win. Well, we didn't play that way against Denver. That's why we lost. We didn't move the football. We weren't consistent against Denver, but we were against Tampa Bay. This is the team more along the lines of what I thought we were getting. Now, if we can get that for the remainder of the season, we've got a legitimate shot. And I've gone through this exercise already, but I was just on my guy Tony Dunn's C3 podcast, Cat Chronicles podcast, Carolina Cat Chronicles. They've been doing it just as long as I have. My guy Tony Dunn, like he said, we've been in these streets for a long time together. And I was on his show last night and talked a lot about Carolina versus Washington and a lot of the different storylines coming up in this game. And, one of the things that we talked about was this Washington defense and was it good enough to stop Cam Newton and that offense and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, it's the best football we've played all season. And I said, they felt like it was a one-off. Like, hey, you just did that to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. That's impressive. But, you guys haven't been playing good defense. And I said, oh, hold on. This has been building for 3 weeks now. This has been building for 3 weeks. I said, going all the way back to the Green Bay game, I saw improvement, stark improvement in this defense. And then it carried over into the Denver game, and the offense simply wasn't good enough. And then it carried over after the bye, and finally the offense picked it up. Because remember, in Green Bay, they got in the red zone 8 million times, got 0 points, kicks blocked, fumbles, interception, failed fourth down after failed fourth down, all of that nonsense. Defense gave us a chance. Taylor Heinecke doesn't have that fumble to start the half, fumble, interception, whatever it was, to start the half. I believe it was a fumble that Green Bay recovers, and they're in business at the Washington 25 maybe, and they end up getting a touchdown. If that doesn't happen, who knows if Green Bay scores another point in the game? Maybe it's just 17. Maybe we're still hanging around. Whatever the case may be, I felt like this had a chance to come. I just didn't expect it to come against Tampa. I thought it would come maybe 1 week too late against Carolina. Maybe the week after that against Seattle. They're struggling. But I've said this time and time again. I said it on the Carolina Chronicles, Cat Chronicles podcast. You look around, and I've said this on my podcast as well. You look around the NFC conference, and you look at the teams that are supposed to be good. Who scares you? And I'm going to leave that there because there's a comment that I want to address later on in the show, and I'm going to pick right up where we left off right there. I'm going to leave it there, put a pin in it. Boop, put a pin in it. I'm going to take that pin out. We're going to talk about that and address it some more later on in the show. Let's go to in other news. So, first day of the week of practice. And, the biggest thing for me on Wednesdays is, all right, dust settles, smoke clears. Let's see what the injuries look like, because we knew we had incurred more injuries over the game on Sunday. Some guys were able to come back, but you know how it is. Adrenaline's flowing, it's pumping. You really don't know how banged up someone truly is until, the aftermath of everything, and you settle down and the adrenaline wears off and the blood gets to settle and swelling starts to set in. Now, all of a sudden, you're in trouble. That knee stiffens up, that ankle stiffens up. You can't really move. And now we got problems on our hands. So I wanted to know, is Terry truly okay? Yeah, he took a vicious shot. He had the spine thing where he had to leave and get examined, and then he came back, and then he took the vicious shot at the end, and he held on to the rock, and everything was all good. I knew he didn't have a concussion because he wouldn't have spoken to the media after the game if he had something wrong. But he talked to the media, so that let me know he's okay from that standpoint. But what about the spine? Maybe that thing starts to creep up. Maybe that's an issue. So I was worried about him. I was worried about Sheriff. Ricky Seals-Jones, what's the significance of his injury? We already know what it is, but, you don't know the severity of these things. What's the deal with Logan Thomas? How about Curtis Samuel? Even though at this point I'm done looking out for Curtis Samuel. Like, Curtis watch is over for me. If something comes up, I'll be like, whoa, that's news to me. But I'm not looking for Curtis Samuel. I'm more concerned about where's Logan Thomas and his development, trying to get back, especially now with Ricky Seals-Jones being out. So let's talk about those things. Let's take a look at the injury report from Wednesday's practice. And something else I want to touch on, but let's take a look at the injury report for both teams. And we start with Washington. So did you guys know, I meant to mention this last week. Did you guys know Sadiq Charles? I meant to mention this on Monday's show, excuse me. Did you know Sadiq Charles was on the COVID list? I did not know that. Did you guys know that? I missed that memo. I don't know how that one slipped by me, but Sadiq Charles was on the COVID reserve list, and they just activated him on Monday. Did not know that. Anyway, he didn't practice today. Kendall Fuller with a knee. See, this is what I'm talking about. Did you know Kendall had a knee? I didn't know Kendall had a knee. See, this is what I'm talking about. Surprise! I don't like surprises on Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. Here's a surprise. Kendall Fuller's got a knee. We already don't have Benjamin St-Juste, right? They did activate, however, cornerback Daryl Roberts from IR today. So he's now eligible to practice, and they've got 21 days to activate him onto the active roster before he is then on IR for the remainder of the year. So that is good news, because at least we have another healthy body at the cornerback position should something go down with, say, a Kendall Fuller or Benjamin St-Juste cannot perform. You see Danny Johnson's all the way at the bottom of this thing. Again, another what are we doing here? But he fully practiced with the wrist. He'll be fine. I'm not worried about him. But Kendall Fuller with the knee. Curtis Samuel, never, ever trust a man with two first names with the groin. Again, I'm not really too concerned with that. Ricky Seals-Jones hip, I think he's going to miss at least 3 weeks. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they decided to put him on IR, but they probably won't, because it's a 2 to 4 week injury. My understanding is it's a 2 to 4 week injury, what he has. And it could be on the 2 week side, so I don't think they'll put him on IR, but we'll see. Benjamin St-Juste with the concussion, that's a little alarming that he's not, practicing today, because remember the last time he had one of these deals, he practiced that Wednesday, the following Wednesday. So, and when you've had multiple ones, it's never good, so yeah, that could get a little dicey. Cosme with the ankle, he was limited today. Same with Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin with the shoulder, Sammy's Reyes hip, Sheriff knee, Danny Johnson wrist. So you can pretty much take out the bottom half of this group. Cosme, Gibson, McLaurin, Reyes, Sheriff, Johnson, they're all good. Okay, they were all limited participants. Danny Johnson was a full participant. They're going to play. We don't worry about the limited guys usually. But all of the DMPs, the guys that I'm most concerned about are St-Juste and Fuller, the two corners. Really, Ricky Seals-Jones, I already in my mind know he's going to be out. Same with Curtis Samuel and Sadiq Charles. We've got enough depth. I mean, hell, I didn't even know he was missing, right? Like, he hasn't been active for most of the season. So we'll be fine without Sadiq Charles. We'll survive without him. But Fuller and Benjamin St-Juste are huge, because that's two guys that you can't keep getting injuries to the same position. Eventually, it's going to hurt you. So we need one of those guys healthy for this upcoming week against Carolina. It'd be nice. Meanwhile, here's the thing I want to talk about with Carolina. Look at how little and small this list is. We haven't had a team that we've played against have a list this small since probably week 3 against Buffalo. I mean, seriously. The last, I want to say, month and a half, we've been really fortunate to play teams that have been somewhat banged up just like us. So I want to go all the way back to week 5, home for New Orleans. Half of their team was out. That's why that loss was so debilitating. And I talked about why that one stung probably more than any other loss this season, is because, one, we're going to be battling with the Saints for a playoff spot. They're not winning their division. They're going to be a wild card team. And you want to be able to beat those other teams head to head, like Carolina, for instance, this week, that you're going to be head to head against. Atlanta, we already beat them. That's great for positioning just in case they decide to get on their horse and we look up and they got 9 wins. We got 9 wins. Well, we beat you. We own the tiebreaker. That's why the importance of beating a team head to head. And they had half their team out. That's what made that New Orleans loss so debilitating, is that they barely could field a team and we couldn't take advantage of it. They were just trying to limp to the bye week, which was the following week after the Washington game, and we let them come out of Washington with a win. They just didn't want to get hurt anymore, and we let them come out of there with a win. But they were banged up. The following week after that against Kansas City, the Chiefs were banged up. They didn't have their best defensive player in Chris Jones. Remember, I told you, if Chris Jones doesn't play, that's a win for us. Well, he didn't play. Then the following week after that, we go on the road to Green Bay, and they're missing 3 of their best defensive players. Their star corner is out. And neither one of the Smith bros played in the game. Like, we had it tailor-made, set up for us to take advantage of their defense. And we did. We moved the ball up and down the field. Just couldn't get in the end zone. The following week after that, we play the Denver Broncos. It's a must-win game. The Broncos don't have their best player, Von Miller, in the game. We still weren't able to take advantage of it. But at least they didn't have Von Miller. Then you fast forward to last week, and we talked about, some big names on that thing. And I said, look, out of these lists of big players, big name players, 2 of them aren't playing. More likely than not, Antonio Brown isn't playing, and I know Gronk isn't playing. I said, Chris Godwin is going to play, and there was one more person on that list, and I said, he's going to play, JP. And I said, he's going to play as well, and both of them did. But we had some big name players out for them as well. This is the first week. None of these guys that we're looking at right now are, needle movers. The biggest name on that list is probably Frankie Louvu. He's a rookie, and he doesn't start. He's a reserve and a key special teams guy. But none of these guys are needle movers. They're relatively healthy. That sucks. But I'm not crying over spilt milk. It is what it is. So as you look at this, only one guy didn't practice, Marquise Haynes. So we're not getting a break here. We got to make our own breaks. We won't catch any breaks unless something goes awry in practice. And I'm not looking for that. I'll take anybody that's already banged up, but I'm not looking for a guy to go down in practice. I'm not looking for a guy to go down in the game. That's not my MO. That's not what I'm looking for. So just know we're going to have to play ball with whoever we got, and we're not getting any breaks from the Panthers because they're relatively healthy. So you get to in other news, and heard from several guys at the podium today. Those names included Ron Rivera, Taylor Heinecke, Terry McLaurin, and we also heard from Daron Payne, which Daron usually doesn't have much to say. Listening to Ron, when I talked on the C3 podcast yesterday, we talked about, all the storylines. And, one of the storylines was, of course, Ron Rivera heading back to Carolina. And I told them, Ron's going to downplay this thing. Ron's going to say all the right things. And he should. That's what the job of a head coach is to do, is to put a good face out for the media, to not give the opposition any bulletin board material. You talk up the other team, even if the other team is 1-10. You make them sound, that's what Joe Gibbs used to do. You make them sound like they're the best team in the league. That's what you do publicly, right? Behind closed doors, Ron is telling all of his, members of his staff and his team, I want this one bad. He's not going to make it about himself. He's not going to do that. But those players want to get this for Ron Rivera badly. Okay? Like, let's not sugarcoat it. Now, Daron Payne was like, look, yeah, we want to win it for coach, but we need some dubs, man. Like, he was pretty blunt, like, bro, we need some dubs. Like, I don't really care who the opponent is. We just need dubs. We can't afford to keep losing games. Like, yeah, we want it for coach, and it's Carolina, and that's cool, but we just need some dubs, man. It could have been the Toronto Space Beaters. We just need a dub. Like, we really don't care who the hell we're playing at this point. And touche. I'm feeling the same way. Like, I really don't give a shit who it is. We just need it, right? And Taylor Heinecke, he was pretty chill on it as well. Like, yeah, look, I was only in Carolina for 1 year. I don't want to sit here and act like this is some grandiose homecoming for me. I don't really know Cam all that well. He treated me well for that 1 year I was there. We had a little relationship, but I don't really know him like that for real. I don't really, have any ill will towards Carolina. They gave me an opportunity. Look, I don't really know a lot of people there. Like, it's not that big of a deal for me. This ain't my week. I've had weeks going to Green Bay. That was a week for me. Going to Atlanta, going back home. That was a week for me. This week, not really a week for me. He's like, look, it's still big. I want to beat them, and I did used to play there, but I mean, it's just another game. I need a dub pretty much. So, that was the message. I love that message. Look, yeah, it's a lot going on, and how the media is going to do. They're going to really, milk those storylines as they should. There's a lot of juicy ones. Whether it's Cam getting his first start, his first home game, and the crowd is going to be charged, and Ron's coming back home, and Ron and Cam's relationship, which Ron talked about during the presser. A lot of the presser was centered around that. And Heinecke coming back, even though he's like, yeah, not really a big deal for me. Half of the staff, no. 2/3 of the staff, no. 4/5 of the staff is from Carolina. Some of the front office is from Carolina. Like, he pretty much brought all of Carolina with him. So, they were fired. Let's call a spade a spade. They were fired. When Ron lost his job, so did they. So they want to win too. So Ron's not going to play that whole narrative up. That's not his personality. But you'd be a damn fool to think that he doesn't want to win this game badly. So hopefully the players understand that. And I know they want a dub. And that's the most important thing. But hopefully they also understand that your coach really wants this one. And I can already see it. I've been playing this in my head over and over again. When we win this game and they give us our little sliver of the post-game victory speech, I can already see Terry McLaurin giving a speech saying, hey, everybody, real quick. We knew that, this was a different week. Coach tried to downplay it. And look, we wanted to win, but we all wanted to win this one for Coach. Game ball for Coach Rivera. Yeah! I already see it in my head. Ron coming and getting that ball, and he being a little emotional, but he holds it back and he says, hey, guys, big win. We needed this one. This is what you do when you play together. You do it the right way. When you practice the way we've been practicing, this is what happens. Team on 3, 1, 2, 3, team. I see it already. Now they just got to make it come to fruition. So now the Carolina Cat Chronicles dudes didn't see it that way. they don't want to hear that shit. Okay. But I see it in my head already. Terry comes up, game ball for Coach Rivera, gives it to Coach. And it might be Jonathan Allen. It's one of the two. It's either going to be Jonathan Allen or it's going to be Terry. In my vision, it's Terry. But anyway, so they talked a lot about that. Then it was Terry. And Terry's presser took on a different tone because Terry last week talked about mental health, talked about, the league should consider giving a third bye week with this extra week of football. And that was something that was on the table, that they would give an extra bye week, a second bye week. And remember, the league has done that before. They had 2 bye weeks back in like 1990, I believe. They did it for 1 year and then they didn't like it. They got rid of it. But he said, they should consider doing that. It's a lot on these players. And I've seen more players be cognizant of their mental health this season than ever before. Remember on my podcast, I talked about Calvin Ridley and, it just kept saying for personal reasons he was out. And I was like, man, I don't know what's going on in his personal life, but he needs to make sure he takes care of that first. Football is secondary to whatever he's got going on in his life right now. And it was just him needing and it might have been, there might be some stressors in his life. I think it's a lot to do with also, he's the number 1 guy in Atlanta now. There's no Julio Jones and shit might have got tough. And, it's a struggle, and who knows? His grandma could have been sick. You don't know what's going on with these guys. And that's why I would say, whatever time you need for a mental break, you need to take it. Lane Johnson did the same thing. Anyway, Terry talked about, his mental health and how, remember, I told you guys last week, he talked about the stressors of being the number 1 guy and knowing that there's a lot of weight that's on your shoulders. And he's like, I welcome that challenge. I want that, but it's a lot. I didn't realize how much it was. It's a lot. And the detail that goes in, week out to doing what it takes to be that guy every week. And I told you what I took from it was Terry needs help. That's essentially him saying, I need other guys to step up, man. Damn it. I can't do this by myself. Right. And he's getting help, not the kind of help that we thought he would be getting, but it's coming from multiple different avenues. It's coming from, DeAndre Carter. It's coming from Dax Milne. It's coming from Ricky Seals-Jones. It's coming from J.D. McKissick. It's coming from, and so 9 different guys caught passes on Sunday. That's how it should be because we don't have a legitimate number 2 wide receiver. And essentially Terry is the de facto 1 and 2 and 3. We need him to have help and it needs to be spread around. And it was this past week. So I want to see that continue. But Terry also talked about the hit that he took. He said that was the most gratifying play of his career to this point, because he said the game was on the line, which is what I said, after the game was over and we were on overtime. I said that was, to me, one of Terry's better plays. Why? And this is why he's a number one. And that's specifically what I said. He's a number one because the game was on the line. They knew he was getting the ball, and they still couldn't stop him. They deliver a vicious shot, and he holds on to it and shows them, y'all can't hurt me. I'm a machine, jerk. And so what that shows is toughness. What that shows is want to. What that shows is, in the most critical situations in the game, I can go to you and you will come through for me. And what it said to Tampa Bay is, damn, he is that dude. And what it said to his teammates is, if Terry can go over the middle, take a shot like that, get up and do what he needs to do for this team to win, how can I not give maximum effort when our captain is out here laying it on the line? So that shit permeates amongst the roster. So, I mean, he was so clutch, man, and I loved it. Loved every second of it. So a lot of good vibes right now. And Terry said it was another great day of practice. I've been hearing that of late. Like, hey, we had a great week of practice last week. It translated to the field on Sunday and I played you the soundbite of Jonathan Allen talking about practice and how well it went and how it translated to Sunday. And sounds like they had another good, strong day of practice today, kicking off this week as we start to prepare for the Carolina Panthers. So let's transition to social media maneuvers. This is where you guys take over the show. And I want to get to your comments here in a second. But before I do that, I want to quickly take a look at, let me adjust this real quick. I want to take a look at, see which one is which. Yeah, there we go. Let's get that one out of there. So I want to quickly take a look at a couple of comments that I saw on YouTube. I told you I read all these comments, and I want to address them. And it's two different comments, two totally different topics, but I think they're both relevant topics. And I know one of them you're not going to agree with. The other one you may agree with, or you may not agree with it. We'll see. Let's get to it. I want you to remain objective. You may not agree with what is being said, but that doesn't mean you have to be nasty about it. Just say, I don't agree. And we can agree to disagree. Or you can say, you know what? I think he's right. Let's take a look at these two comments, and we'll take them one at a time. So this first comment I'm going to read to you is from Jared Fromm. And Jared writes, I love this. He says, Lou, I love the show. I told you guys, anytime someone's about to say something disparaging, or normally I say, anytime someone says, they give you a compliment, or they say, hey, no disrespect, but, or if they say, and I always know when I'm about to get something where they disagree with me. And so when somebody's about to disagree with, oh, I love this show. First of all, you don't have to qualify your statement with me. I'm a grown ass man. Okay. So you don't have to qualify your statement trying to soften the blow of what you're about to say by telling me you love my show. That's fine. We're going to disagree. I talk about this all the time. We're going to agree, and we're also going to disagree. So you don't have to qualify your statement by saying, Lou, I love your show, but. So I knew after that, but normally I tell you when someone's about to disrespect you, they say, hey, no disrespect. Here comes disrespect. He says, but you are going down that rabbit hole again. LOL. Sunday was a great win, but it was an outlier. That's not the norm. We aren't great, and we have a lot of injuries. I love we got a great win Sunday, but the Bucs are also struggling. That's not wrong. Okay, he's not wrong in that assessment. Just like how the Steelers weren't really good last year, and we started their downfall. I think it's a little different because the Steelers couldn't run the football. There were some fundamental issues with that Steelers football team last season. And oh, by the way, they didn't have Tom Brady, but and they hadn't just won the Super Bowl. It's a little different, but I get where you're coming from. I get the premise of what you're saying. Too much copium coming now that the team got a win, LOL. He says, I don't want the playoffs this year, as dumb as that sounds. We haven't played well against contenders besides Tampa, whom again is struggling. I fear we get embarrassed in the playoffs if we go. I want us to get a QB. The playoffs put us way back in the draft. I get it. You say we can trade up, but he says we can't if we're too far back. And you can't trade your entire future, especially for a franchise whom has a track record of missing on franchise quarterbacks. If we make the postseason, we will be doing the same shit at quarterback again next year. I'm afraid we are starting an endless loop. So, interesting stuff there from Jared. All right. So, I want to take it piece by piece, bit by bit. So, he says, we're going down the rabbit hole again. He's not wrong, right? Like, we go through this cycle. Here's the difference between this year and past years. In past years, and I want to go a little bit further, okay? We're not a great team. You don't have to be great to win in this league. You just have to be good, okay? We're not a great team. He says we have a lot of injuries. We acknowledge that we have a lot of injuries. This is where the depth of the team is tested. A lot of teams around the league have injuries. The Buccaneers are playing with their 6th and 7th corner. No excuses. You find a way to get it done. He says, I love that we got a great win, but the Bucs are struggling. They are. That's fine. He said, I don't want to be in the playoffs this year, as dumb as that sounds. It does sound dumb. He says, we haven't played well against contenders besides Tampa, whom again is struggling. So let's stop right there. We haven't played well against contenders this season. So who are the true contenders? The one team that I felt like we didn't give ourselves a chance against was Buffalo. That's the only team that I felt like outright thrashed us, that we didn't stand a chance. If you consider Kansas City a contender, and I'm not sleeping on the Chiefs, I think they're going to figure it out. We were in that game. You could argue we should have won that game. I never thought we were going to win that game, even when we were up. But we didn't give ourselves a chance with the way we played, especially in the second half. You know, but we were in that game. The 31-13 score doesn't really do that game any justice. We all watched the game. We all know what the score was before things started to go haywire. Okay. The only other game against a true contender was Green Bay, right? So for me, the Green Bay game, for me, was a game that I was optimistic after. Remember, I might have been too optimistic after a loss. But I was like, yo, that wasn't a bad performance. I actually think we might be able to do some damage if we can play the way we played in this game, but find a way to score in the red zone. So that was the only other contender. So I want to pause that comment, and I want to take that pen out. Remember I told you I was going to put a pen in that conversation that I had with C3 and what I had on my podcast and what I've been talking about, which is the contenders in the contenders, in the NFC conference. Who are these teams anyway? Well, let's go through the list, shall we? Okay. There's Arizona. They're 8-2. Now, they didn't have Kyler Murray nor DeAndre Hopkins on Sunday, but they got their asses waxed by a 4-5, now 5-5 Carolina Panthers team, 34-10. Okay. They didn't have Kyler Murray. I acknowledge that. That's the same Arizona Cardinals team, by the way, that lost to Aaron Rodgers with no wide receivers. I may add. Okay. But fine. They're 8-2 and they're a good ball club. I don't want to take anything away from them. Then there's there are the Green Bay Packers, who we played and we were in the game and had a chance. I don't think we would have beat them, but if we would have scored, if they didn't take the Taylor Heinecke touchdown run away from us, we're right in that game. We're right in that ball game. At 24-17, we're right in that game. They couldn't move the ball on our defense. We're right in the game. The next team up is Dallas. They're 7-2. We haven't played them yet, but we get two cracks at them. And I know none of you are afraid of Dallas. I'm not. Could they embarrass us? You're damn right. We go out there tripping and slipping around. Their offense has it on that day. Yeah, they could do what they did to the Falcons to us. Now, it won't be 43-3, but it could be embarrassing. Sure. But you know what also could happen? We could also do what Denver did to them. That could also happen. You know why? Because that's what this league is. You don't really know. Next team up, the Los Angeles Rams. You just watched them the last 2 weeks like I did. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Maybe you only watch Washington games. 2 weeks ago, they got smashed at home by the Tennessee Titans. Last week, they went to San Francisco, mind you, a 3-win San Francisco team, and got their brains bashed in. So I don't know about the Rams. Sorry, not sorry. Okay. Who else is there in the NFC that we should be concerned about? And then there's Tampa Bay. Excuse me. I don't want to leave them out. And we just beat them. Okay. So those are your contenders in the NFC. Does any of them scare any of you? Because I'm damn sure not shaking in my boots looking at the landscape of the NFC. And all the other teams that are hovering around 500 that are chasing after those wild cards just like us. Minnesota, Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans, who we should have beaten. These teams don't scare me. None of the teams at the top scare me. And this is why I keep saying, why not us? Now, again, it's a really simple question with a simple answer. Why not us? Because we're not consistent. That's why. Because we can't win 2 games in a row. But that could change on Sunday. If it's not us, we'll know. We'll go to Carolina. We'll fight, but we won't win. And we'll know. Okay, it's not our year. It's not us. It's not our time. And even if we lost to Carolina, that still does not preclude us from postseason contention. Because we could lose that game and then win the rest of them. But I said all of that to say this. You think we're going to go to the playoffs to get embarrassed? By who? This isn't last year where you looked at Green Bay and you said, there's no way we're going to Lambeau and beating the Packers. We went to Lambeau already this year. I'm not afraid of the Green Bay Packers. I'd go to Lambeau again, and I would think, if we're playing the kind of football we're playing right now, I would think we could go into Lambeau and win. I look at that Packers team and I say, I am not afraid. I am not moved. I look at the Rams and I say, if the Rams are the 2 seed and we're the 7 seed and we got to play the Rams in wild card weekend, are you afraid to go to LA? Because I damn sure am not afraid to go to LA to play the Rams. I'm not. I look around Dallas. You will never get me to be afraid of a family member. I don't give a damn how good they are. They could be undefeated. I will never be afraid of a family member. Never, ever, 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 ever. Even if I know they probably gonna smoke us, I'm not gonna be afraid. I may beg for mercy. Please don't embarrass us. But I'm not afraid. So I'm not afraid of Dallas. I don't give a shit how good they are. Not afraid. I'm damn sure not afraid of Tampa. We just beat them. Not to say that we would beat them the next time we played them, or if we had to go to Tampa, that we would beat them. We play them 10 times, we probably lose 9 of them. But the point is, not afraid. And again, being afraid is not a prerequisite to getting your ass beat. You cannot be afraid and still get your ass beat. But what I'm saying is, I don't look at anybody this year. 2 years ago, the 49ers, who thought anybody could go to San Francisco and win against that defense? My point is, this year, there isn't one of those teams. Last year, it was Green Bay. Who thought anybody could go into Green Bay and beat Green Bay except Tampa Bay? And I didn't even think Tampa Bay could go into Green Bay and beat Green Bay, and they did. There's not one of those teams this year. Not a single one in the NFC. Anybody can be beaten any week. We've seen that. That's why I want, for all the years that we've talked about, oh, we don't need to go to the playoffs, we're just going to get embarrassed. This isn't the year to say that. That comment doesn't make sense this year. Maybe last year. Maybe the year before that. That doesn't make any sense this year. Let's get back to that comment, though. And he says, I want us to get a QB. The playoffs put us way back in the draft. I get it. You said we could trade up. We can't if we're too far back. So let's stop there. And he then goes into a spiel of, you know, we need a franchise quarterback and we'll be doing the same shit at quarterback. You know, we'll be in this endless loop if we decide to make the playoffs. So let's attack that last portion of his comment. You already answered the question or the comment with the answer I'm going to give you, which is, if you want a quarterback bad enough, you can trust me. There's always somebody looking. First of all, this is a draft where maybe there's one or two guys you want. Maybe, maybe you love Kenny Pickett. Maybe that's the guy that Washington circles and says, hey, that's the guy we need to go up and get. Trust me. If the team that occupies the pick that you need to get Kenny Pickett, and they make it known that they are willing to trade out, or they don't make it known, but you come with an offer that they can't refuse, you can get that pick. It doesn't matter how far back you are. And I've already said, so what if Jacksonville's sitting there at number 2, right? Let's say Jacksonville's the number 2 pick in the draft. And the number 1 pick in the draft is a team that needs an edge rusher. They got a quarterback already. They need an edge rusher. They're not trading out of number 1. They want Kayvon Thibodeau. They're not trading out of 1. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, fine. But Jacksonville's like, yo, we're open for business at 2. We got Trevor Lawrence. We don't need a quarterback. What you got? You call them up and you put together a package. It may include a player. It may not include a player. But you put together a package with the first-round pick this year, probably a first-round pick next year, and you throw in a player that they really like, you can get the guy that you want. If you want a quarterback bad enough, you can make it happen. The question is, do we love a guy enough to go up and get him? I don't want to hear the excuse of, we don't need to make the playoffs because we'll be too far back in the draft. That's loser talk. You want a guy, you come up, you get him. No matter where you are. The Chiefs were all the way back at like 26 or 29 when they traded up to 10 for Patrick Mahomes. Okay? The Texans were all the way at 23 or something like that when they traded up for Deshaun Watson at 11 or 12 in that same draft. You don't have to be at 9 to get a quarterback. You don't have to be at 4 to get a quarterback. You can be back in the draft. You just got to be willing to pay the price to come up and get the guy that you want. That's all. The 49ers wanted Trey Lance last season. The 49ers didn't trade once. They traded twice to get Trey Lance. Or was that the Dolphins who traded twice? The Dolphins traded twice. Excuse me, not the 49ers. Dolphins traded back into the top 5 to get Jalen Waddle. 49ers traded up to get their quarterback. You can do that. The Bears traded up to get Justin Fields. Right around the same place that we were. The Bears made the playoffs last year. My point is, you don't have to lose to get a quarterback. That's asinine. It's asinine. And it's loser talk. Thank you for the comment, though, Jared. I really do appreciate you. And then I'm going to take another look, this time at this last comment. So let's focus on this one. This one is from Chris. Chris writes, when Montana quietly, Joe Montana he's referring to, okay? We're going back in the timeline a bit here, okay? When Joe Montana quietly became good, what he says, when Joe Montana quietly became good was the second half of 1980. Yeah, I'm old school. He has to let you know, okay? He replaced DeBerg, okay? For a lot of you, you have no idea who DeBerg is. He's referring to Steve DeBerg, who played till he was 600 years old in the NFL. I got back end of his career, Steve DeBerg, so I don't know what actual good Steve DeBerg looks like. I knew the backup Steve DeBerg that played in Seattle, that played in Atlanta, back end of his career. That's when I saw Steve DeBerg. I didn't see, the Steve DeBerg that was a true starter in this league and actually somewhat good. Anyway, he says he finished the Niners' second half of the season as a starter. That's when he quietly getting good in the West Coast offense, under the radar, out of sight. The next year they went to the Super Bowl. Started 6-0. Joe Gibbs' first year, he started 0-5. One of those losses was to that Niners team. We all wanted to jettison Joe as a coach. Eric Coryell wasn't going to work here. He adjusted the scheme to fit the personnel, the emergence of John Riggins, change of pace running back Joe Washington, and the short game. The team quietly finished that year 8-8, got sneaky good that second half, went to the Super Bowl in 1982. I say all of that to say this. Such a scenario could be happening here. You see, I think Taylor is sneaky good. He already has some iconic moments in Washington football team lore. Pylon dive, longest game-winning, time-consuming drive of the year against GOAT Brady. Iced him. To come from behind victories, he's a puppy. He needs time. They need time. The year for this team could really be next year. Had Zach Wilson did what Taylor did to Tom Brady and the Bucs, the sports media world would have lost their friggin' minds. Why? Draft status. It's bias. Taylor's an off-the-street free agent. He's not supposed to be good. I agree with Louie. He does have to elevate. I think he can. But we still have to understand he is still very early in his development. It's time to start playing our best ball. There's another level we can get to. I think we can. It's going to be fun to find out. I'm out. So that was from Chris. And we'll take that one, and that will transition us into social media maneuvers and your comments. So what I want to address with that one is this premise, because my guy Redskins Review is adamant that we've got the quarterback already. His name is Taylor Heinecke. And what Chris essentially is saying is he thinks we may have our quarterback of the future on the roster. And if you listen to Ron, I'm not sure that I think Ron knows that we can do better at quarterback. Okay. But I also think Ron's like, yo, if we can't get the guy that we want, and again, I've said this already, if you can't get the guy that you want, and you just may not be able to get that guy. Like, if you wanted Joe Burrow, you had to be the number one pick in the draft. Cincinnati wasn't trading out of one to allow you to come up to get Joe Burrow. And that might be the only quarterback. Kenny Pickett may be the only quarterback that you're interested in. You have no intrigue with any of the other quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett is all that you want. And Detroit could be the number one pick in the draft, and they could say, well, we're not trading, and we want Kenny Pickett. What are you going to do? Right? There's nothing you can do. You don't want Matt Corral. You don't want Malik Willis. You don't want any of the consolation prizes. You just want Kenny Pickett. He's not available. So maybe Ron says, well, I'm totally fine with rolling with Taylor Heinecke. And I'm starting to hear now, again, you can hear certain things after a win, but Ron's been steadfast in his belief in Taylor when everybody was saying we should bench him. And I told you that doesn't make any sense. And I've been adamant. Where are we going? Kyle Allen is clearly not the future. He's got enough starts in this league for Ron to be able to assess what he is. Heinecke, on the other hand, does not have enough starts for Ron to be able to make a determination one way or another as to whether he can or can't do it. I already feel like he's a high-level backup quarterback. I don't think he's a starter. However, that narrative could change. It could change. But right now, as we sit here on November 17th, feel like Taylor Heinecke is a high-level NFL backup quarterback. I told you, I want him here, just not in a starting capacity. However, Ron sounds like he feels that that Taylor can do this. And when you listen to him today in particular, he's like, yo, Taylor, he has the swag about him, and his teammates believe in him, and they feel like they can do it. And I tell you what, he's doing all of this with, not every guy that we thought we would have available. I'd love to see us get healthy and see what Taylor really could do. So I think Ron actually truly does believe in Taylor Heinecke. Now, does he believe in him enough to say that he's a long-term starter here? I don't think so. Not right now. But to Chris's point, there's more football left to be played. And depending on how these final 8 games go of this season, it could go a long way in determining whether or not Taylor Heinecke is the starter of this team moving forward or not. I still contend you need a quarterback. They're going to draft one. And if they love one, they're going to make sure they get their hands on that guy. I still contend that the fact that Washington's presence at all of these big quarterback battles has been, out there, it lets you know that how they feel about the quarterback position. And they should be. at these games. They should be in attendance. They should be seeing these quarterbacks up close and personal, live, to see how the ball comes out, to see how they handle some of these situations, game situations. It's cool to watch a guy throwing against air in a scripted, passing session. That's all great, fine, and dandy, okay? This is unscripted. This is an actual game that you're trying to win. What happens when you throw an interception? What happens when your team is trailing late? What do you do? That's what you go to these games and find out. So, to Chris's point, Heinecke's chapter is far from written. Like, that book is not over, and we're still writing some of the final chapters. I don't think he's a starter. Let me make my position clear again. I don't think he's a starter. But Redskins review, guys like Chris, there is a sector of the fan base that believes Heinecke can do it, and that he's young, which he is, and that he hasn't had a ton of starting experience, which he hasn't, and he's showing the kind of play that lends itself to being a consistent starter in this league, which at times he has. So we'll see. I just wanted to bring that to your attention because I found it an interesting comment. Even though he went way back in the archives to make his point. Point received. Noted and duly noted. So, anyway, let's get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say. Jason Rogers, Uncle Jay, starts us off tonight. Thank you for the super chat, Jason. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Uncle Jay, writes, Lou, I sure hope you set that meeting with Victory Mondays. I need to hear from her again. Appreciate you. Keep up all the hard work. Yeah, I talked to her, man. And the letter you wrote her was beautiful. It really was. And I hope she'll come back. We had a good time. We had a really good time. Did you guys get to hear Taylor Heinecke mic'd up? Wasn't much there. I enjoyed the part where he was trying to explain to the offensive lineman at the end that they were going to take a knee on the 2-point conversion. They were just baffled, like to the point where you're like, okay, some of you are meatheads. Like, seriously, it's not that hard of a concept. And you know what really is amazing to me? And it's not just our team. This is just NFL players in general. What really amazes me is how few guys actually know the rules. Najee Harris, Steelers rookie running back. And, he's a rookie, so I'll cut him a break. But Najee Harris, at the end of the Steelers tied game with the Lions this week, said, I didn't know you could tie. You remember who else said that? Donovan freaking McNabb, who was probably like 9 years into his NFL career, didn't know that you could tie an NFL game. Like, what? There's certain rules you may not know exist. Like, if you're a kickoff return man and you're standing out of bounds and you touch the football while standing out of bounds, the football is then out of bounds. So now it's a kickoff out of bounds and you get it at the 40-yard line. Okay, so you don't know that rule. I get it. That's not a rule you see every day. But to not understand the concept of if this kick gets blocked, the extra point gets blocked in return for a score, it's 2 points. Or if you go for 2 and you throw an interception and it gets picked off and run the other way, or you fumble and it's scooped up and run the other way, it's 2 points. We're up 10, 2 points makes it an 8-point deficit for Tampa Bay. Now we kick off to them. They get some kind of freakish Hail Mary play and they score and they get a 2-point conversion. The game's tied. What's hard to understand about that? I don't know. I don't understand why your mind is totally blown by the concept of, hey, we're going to take a knee here so nothing crazy happens. Anyway, I spoke to Victory Monday. She was lovely, and I invited her back, and I hope she decides to come back. So thank you for that, Jason Rogers, Uncle Jay. Really do appreciate you. Michael White, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Michael White, writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Mike? We must continue to run the ball, even if it isn't working, because it helps the safeties and linebackers stay honest. And also, the red zone has a way higher success rate when you're more balanced run and pass. So the first part of that is running the football when it's not working. I don't agree with that statement. I think that this game was weird because the run actually was working. There, when you look at Gibby's numbers, and I watched the game over again, and this sort of dawned on me. Tampa Bay's one of the better run defenses in the league. They're a stonewall, same with New Orleans. And I think Gibby might have had the same amount of carries that he did week 1 against the Chargers that he did against New Orleans. And I think it was his season high. I think it was 20 carries in that Saints game and 20 carries in the Chargers game as well. Anyway, that was up until Sunday when he had 24. The Saints are the number 1 rush defense in football, but we kept running it that day. We had success. That's why they kept running it. Here, we had success. The numbers don't bear that out. 24 for 64 is not a great average, right? But how many losses did he have in the game? I just talked about the pitch on, I want to say it was the second drive of the game where we had to settle for the field goal. Because the first drive, I believe, was Ricky Seals-Jones dropping the football. So the second drive ended when Taylor Heinecke ran for 11, made it 4th and 3, and Ron decided to kick the field goal. But the reason it was 3rd and 14 was because on 2nd and 8 or 2nd and 6, Gibby gets a pitch, 6 yards deep in the backfield. And upon receiving the pitch, here comes Antoine Winfield Jr. to tackle him for like a 6 to 7 yard loss to bring up 3rd and 14. And it's plays like that. And Gibby had another run where as soon as he got the ball, boom, Mike Edwards is in the backfield, tackle for loss. It's like a 5-yard loss. So when you start adding those, and it was like 2 or 3 more runs, the first play of the game, you get a pitch to the outside. Here comes Devin White out of nowhere, tackles him at the line of scrimmage, no gain. Like those skew the numbers, even though there was a 12 and a 9 and a 7 and a bunch of 2s and 1s and 3s. We were consistently getting good hits in the run game, but there was the occasional 6-7 yard loss, the 5-yard loss, the 3-yard loss, the 2-yard loss that made it seem like, man, this is rough, tough sledding. The run was working. And that's what made it something that you could stick with. If you're getting 1 on first down, 1 on second down, you can't keep doing that shit. You can't keep running the football and getting into 3rd and 8. We kept running it because we'd get 3. And then we'd get another 4, and it'd be 3rd and 3. We'd throw it on first down to Ricky Seals-Jones, or we'd throw it to Terry on first down, and we'd get 5. And then you'd run it with Gibby, and you'd get 2, and now it's 3rd and 3. You can convert that. So that's how we stayed ahead of the sticks. It allows you to continue to run the football. I talked about this on Studs and Duds, and this was a great episode of Studs and Duds. So if you're a member of the MOBB, silver or gold, Studs and Duds is up. Check it out. It was a longer episode because there were so many things to talk about. But one of the things I did mention, I'll say this. I don't want to say too much, but one of the things I did talk about was our play calling and Scott Turner's play calling in particular, and how Scott did a really good job of situational awareness, which is something I've questioned with him all season long. I told you, I don't have a problem with Scott Turner's play calling. A lot of you, oh, he's the worst. He needs to be fired. He's terrible. He's not his dad, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, all of that's fine and dandy. But for me, where there's a disconnect with Scott Turner is in those critical moments, knowing what to call. He doesn't always seem to have a good pulse of what needs to be done at that time. And that's usually a sign of a guy that's not as connected as you would think. And so there were times in the game where I thought Scott Turner was dialed in, where I'm like, okay, that's some good ass situational awareness. And I gave examples, and this is the last thing I'll say because I don't want to give too much away of what I said in Studs and Duds. But I said he did so many things from a situational awareness standpoint that let me know he got it. Start off a drive. Buccaneers just scored. Okay. You need a drive starter. You know what a good drive starter isn't? turn around, hand it to Antonio Gibson, and get 2 yards. That's not a good drive starter after the Buccaneers just scored and you're looking to wrestle momentum back. You know what is a great drive starter? Great situational awareness. They're trying to wrestle momentum away from you at 16-13. You need to get this drive started the right way. You know what a great drive starter is? Fake pitch, boot, outside the pocket, 14 to Dax Milne. That shows me situational awareness. Okay, that's a great drive starter when you're trying to wrestle momentum back. Not a 2-yard gain. Okay, turn around and hand it off to Gibby. That's not a good drive starter. That showed me situational awareness. I'll give you another example of situational awareness. Okay, it's 2nd and 14. We just lost like 4 yards on the play. I don't remember what happened. Whether it was a penalty on first down, it pushed us back, and then we gained a couple of yards. Whatever the case, it was 2nd and 14. And I think it was a run. I think one of those runs I just talked about where Gibby gets the football and he's hit immediately in the backfield. Well, after you just lose 4 yards on a run, it's really hard to go back to a run, right? You know what he did? And I thought this was genius because instead of you coming with the wide receiver screen when they know it's coming, you know, because it's 2nd and 14 and you're trying to get 7 or 8 back, you know what he did? He spread them out. Okay, it's just Gibby and Heinecke in the backfield. You got 4 receivers. They're spread out. So the Bucs, they change personnel. They got a light box, and we go with a delay handoff to Gibby. Gibby gets in between the tackles, gets up the field. He gets 12 on 2nd and 14. He hasn't done that all season. Oh, we got stopped on the run on first down, lost 4. I got to throw it now. No, you don't have to throw it. You need to think. What do they think is going to happen? Do the opposite. Situational awareness. And then, as I mentioned on the final drive of the game, I should say, I just thought it was a great balance of run it, pass it. You know, that wide receiver screen to Terry on that final drive, that shit was a thing of beauty. I mean, it really, truly was. Well, that wide receiver screen, I think, came on the drive where Dax Milne fumbled. Excuse me. However, that was a great play call. And we were moving the football then when Dax Milne fumbled. But I thought, all in all, he just had a good feel for what needed to be done, even down to the J.D. McKissic 4th down and 3 play, where J.D. gets to the sticks and Heinecke hits him. You know, we had an answer for everything situationally. I just felt like he was in tune to what we needed to do. I loved it. But I don't agree with running even if it's not working. I understand that there's a need to stay balanced to keep guys honest, but if you're running and you're not getting anything, we were getting yards. Gibby had some good hits in the run game. If you're not getting yards, you're wasting time and downs. But I do agree with red zone success. The best red zone teams in the league run it. I couldn't agree with you more. The reason we were so good in the red zone last year, Gibby had 13 touchdowns. That's why we were so good in the red zone. We could run it. I talked about that. I did cut-ups on IG showing you what made us so effective in the run game, in the red zone last year. I remember the run against Dallas. Morgan Moses coming, sealing off backside, good cut by Gibby up the field end zone. When you can run in the red zone, you're going to score a lot of touchdowns because it's so hard to throw down there because everything's compacted. If you can run it in the red zone, you're going to score a lot of touchdowns. I couldn't agree with you more, Michael. Couldn't agree with you more. Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Metaphor. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Right. Donated my black wardrobe to Salvation Army. Let's go. Hey, man, I wouldn't have done that if I were you, right? I wouldn't give that away. But it's a great gesture. It's that time of the year where the giving spirit needs to be on full display. Thanksgiving is next week. You should be thinking of others. So giving your black wardrobe to Salvation Army is a great gesture, but I would not put that away totally just yet, okay? I wouldn't do that. Oh, that is hilarious. Anyway, Rob Yu, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Rob Yu, who writes, Lou, where has this will to win been at all costs been? Or he says, where has this will to win at all costs been? Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, Rob. You greatly appreciate you. Where has this been? I wish I had the answers for you. I can tell you this. What I've talked about with the defense in particular, I can't speak to the offense. Can't talk about what should or shouldn't have happened with this offense because we didn't really know what to expect from the offense before the season started. So I can't really speak to the offense. What I can speak towards is the defense. And the thing that struck me during the season, early on especially, was the fact that this defense was really new. It was relatively new. It was a lot of moving parts. Jamin Davis, brand new. Bobby McCain, brand new. William Jackson III, brand new. Benjamin St-Juste, brand new. Like, there's a lot of new pieces defensively for this team. And when you have that many moving parts, Landon Collins, you might as well say brand new. Even though he had been here before, he missed so much time. It's like he was starting over again. So there were a lot of moving parts. And remember early in the season, we had a lot of defensive breakdowns and we kept hearing communication. And that's the thing I hate. I hate when I hear that we just got to communicate better. Guys got to be on the same page. Because we still hear that same shit from Greg Minuski. We still hear the same shit from Joe Barry. And that's when I start hearing that, I get pissed off. Because they used to tell us that same bullshit every single week, and we'd see the same breakdowns defensively. And you keep telling me about lack of communication and that we got to communicate better. Well, when the hell are we going to do that? Well, this group, you can tell, and listening to Bobby McCain after the game, and listening to Cam Curl, who says, man, I love playing with these dudes. I love playing with Bobby McCain and Landon Collins. I love playing with these dudes because we communicate so well now. We all on the same page now. We weren't before, but we are now. That's what I want to hear. And you're seeing the dividends. You're seeing the fruits of their labor. The one big play that we gave up, that wasn't anything to do with a defensive breakdown. Kendall Fuller got beat. Brady knew where the one-on-one was. He didn't look over there purposefully. He stared front side, knowing I got backside one-on-one, and took the safety away so that he could get it over there, and he did. That wasn't a defensive breakdown. It was just Kendall Fuller getting beat. It happens. So we're not seeing a guy 20 yards behind the defense and three guys looking at each other like, what the hell? We're not seeing that anymore. So I can just tell you defensively, it's about guys meshing and gelling together. That's why you're starting to see them play a lot better, because you could see it coming from the Green Bay game to the Denver game to now that they were starting to get on one accord. That's why Aaron Rodgers couldn't really push the football vertically. They didn't have any big plays in that game. He had one throw to Devontae Adams for like 26 yards. That was the biggest gain. And Kendall Fuller defended the hell out of that play. It was just a perfect pass. They couldn't push it down the field. Why? Because we're communicating. Because we're taking away the big down the field shots. So that's encouraging. And I think that's why you're starting to see the defense play better. Now, this will to win at all costs. I mean, the guys want to win. It's not like they're going out there and saying, okay, well, we lost. It's just confidence. It's confidence. Swag and confidence comes from winning, comes from making plays. Had the Buccaneers jumped on us 13-0, you don't see that same swag. We don't come back and win the game. We jumped on them 13-0. That gave us confidence. That's why. That first pick, that first 3 and out, that was huge. And then the offense not giving it right back or going 3 and out and giving it back to Brady, but going and getting some points, that was huge. Then the turnover by William Jackson III after Cam Curl comes up and makes a great hit to pop it free. And then getting more points, even though you would like to have had a touchdown, you get another field goal. That's huge. Because now you're building every turnover, every point that you get further and further away from the Buccaneers, you gain more and more confidence. And then finally, what really broke their back and really gave us the confidence that we needed to say, we can win this game, was the Bobby McCain interception, and then Ron going for it, rolling the dice on 4th down, J.D. McKissic coming up clutch with the 3-yard catch on 4th and 3, and then the subsequent DeAndre Carter touchdown on a beautiful throw from Heinecke. That's when everybody looked around and said, hey, we can beat these boys. We got the juice today. We can do this. And from that point on, they had it. They had the juice. So confidence, this is what I keep talking about. Confidence comes from winning. They've got confidence now. We had confidence before and it didn't carry over to the next game and we didn't win. So we've been here before. Is this time different? The only thing that makes me think, because, you know, I watch a lot of TV shows where it's couple related. You know, this is my quality time with the wife. You know, when we watch some shit that I wouldn't watch by myself. You know, these are the sacrifices we make as males in order to spend time with the ones we love. So we're watching one of these emotional shows, right? And, you know, this lady is sitting down and she wants to get married to a guy that she's been married to before, but they've had problems. He's cheated, this, that, and the third. And her best friend is sitting down with her. And she says, you want to marry him again. Let me ask you this. What's changed since the last time you guys got married and got divorced? And she paused for about 60 seconds and she said, I don't know. She said, okay, now if you were sitting where I'm sitting and I just said to you what you just said to me, what would you say to me? She said, I would say that you're crazy. She said, I don't need to say anything else. So I get it. What's different this time than when we beat the Giants in week 2 and then we went to week 3 and got our brains bashed in by Buffalo? What's different than when we beat Atlanta in week 4 and then we turned around and wet the bed against New Orleans? I'll tell you what's different. Why I feel differently this time. The defense is playing better. After both of those wins, the defense was ass. In both of those wins, if not for Heinecke in the offense with a smatter of special teams, we get our asses whooped in those games. Heinecke had to be special. Heinecke ultra in those games. Those weren't 256-yard passing efforts. Those were 300-plus yard passing games from Taylor Heinecke just to give us a chance. The defense is playing with much more confidence. That's why I think this time can be different. And that is it. If the defense was still playing the kind of ball that allows teams to convert 10 out of 14 third downs, I wouldn't be sitting here telling you that I think we've got a chance to get hot. At the top of the show, I said, this is what I thought the team would look like. When I told you I thought we could win 8, 9, possibly 10 games if everything bounced in our favor. Why? Because I thought the defense would be the anchor. When it looks like it's ready to show up and be what it was supposed to be at the start of the season. Again, I could be wrong, but that's why I feel the way that I feel. So where has this been? I think the defense they're just starting to figure it out. And I think that's why we haven't seen it. So that's where it's been. The defense has been meshing and gelling together, but now they're starting to put the pieces together. We'll see. Quentin Ruiz, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Quentin writes, I really believe we can make a run for that wild card spot, Louie. How are you feeling about it? Also, the loss of Young, I don't think will sting that bad. I disagree with that last statement. I do think it will sting. Now, do I think it will have a massive impact on the field play? We'll see. People really underrate what Chase Young was doing because he wasn't getting sacks. He was dominant in the run game. Dominant, not good, dominant in the run game. And teams still had the game plan to stop him. Like, this is one of those weeks where I'm a little nervous. And I told the C3 podcast this yesterday. I said, look, we already struggled with mobile quarterbacks before Young and Sweat got injured. That was a problem for us. Now with less athleticism on the field, I shudder to think at what Cam Newton might do with this read option coming this week. Because we're going to get a heavy dose of RPOs and read option with Cam Newton and Christian McCaffrey. And if you play McCaffrey, Cam's going to pull it. If you play Cam, Christian McCaffrey's going to get it. So it's a double dose, and it's a damn catch-22. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'm nervous. I'm not going to lie to you. And without a Chase Young or a Montez Sweat on the field, it makes stopping that kind of offense that much tougher. It makes stopping a Jalen Hurts that much tougher when there's no Montez Sweat, where he doesn't have to worry about, can this edge rusher catch me in a foot race? No, he can outrun Casey Toohill. He can outrun James Smith-Williams. That's what makes me nervous. So you guys are underestimating the impact of a Chase Young. But do I think we can make a run at a wild card? Yeah, damn right I do. I mean, we wouldn't be having this conversation if I didn't. Yes, I absolutely do think we're capable of making a run. And again, the NFC is so wide open. The entire NFL, for that matter, is so wide open. Even if you are able to get through the NFC side of the bracket, who's stopping you on the AFC side? This is what I'm talking about. Every year, you would look up and you say, there is no way we're beating that team. And for years, it was the Patriots. Like, even if you make it out of the NFC, you're not beating New England anyway. They're waiting on the other side of the bracket. The last 2 years, it was, you're not beating Kansas City anyway, so it doesn't matter. What difference does it make? You're not beating Kansas City. This year, you're looking at the NFC side of the bracket, and there was always a deterrent for us because we weren't good enough to beat San Francisco 2 years ago, or Green Bay last year, or Tampa Bay, for that matter, who we lost to in the playoffs. But there was always a deterrent in the NFC. But even if you were able to get past that deterrent in this conference, there was always a juggernaut waiting on the other side. There's not even that this year. Like, I'm nervous because, like, Dallas could actually win the Super Bowl this year. Every year I'm like, man, Dallas ain't winning shit. They can't beat this team, or that team. They could beat anybody because nobody is elite this year. Nobody. So do I think we can get to, yeah, you're damn right we can get to 9 wins and get to the wild card. This is what I had planned out when I said we needed to beat Denver. We were going to be at this same spot. We just got there differently. And I prefer the way we got there, which is beating Tampa Bay. It's an NFC team. It counts more in the mind of the players and the psyche of the players. Beating Denver would have been cool. But it's Denver. Like, the Eagles just blew Denver out. Okay, who gives a shit? They beat Detroit. They beat Denver. They beat Atlanta. Who respects what Philadelphia's done, their body of work? Nobody. I'm not shitting on Philadelphia's 4 wins, but they didn't beat Tampa Bay. We did. We feel really good about what we just did. So does Philadelphia. But we feel a little bit more better about what we did because we just did it against the defending Super Bowl champions. So we're at the same point that I thought we would be at. Once we lost to New Orleans, I was like, man, we just made it really tough on ourselves. We really did. But it's not impossible. We just got to beat Denver to get to 3-6. Because we'll be 3-5 going into the bye, which gives you a chance. Then you'll lose to Tampa after the bye. You'll be 3-6, and then your season can begin. Well, instead of doing it that way, we lost to Denver. We were 2-6, and then we beat Tampa after the bye. We're still 3-6. But now, instead of having to restart a new win streak after beating Denver and then losing to Tampa, you got momentum going into Carolina, Seattle, Vegas, and then Dallas, Philadelphia, Giants. Now you got momentum going into that stretch. I'd rather do it this way. So sure, I think we can definitely make the playoffs, and I definitely think we can get one of those wild card spots for sure. Doesn't mean we will, but I think we can. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. King of the North, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, the narrative in the media is Panthers upset last week was legit and ours was a fluke. Panthers fans are loud and proud online about beating us easily. Cam has them hype. I hope we are ready. You're not wrong about anything you just said. I'm going to start with this comment from the back to the front about Panthers fans being loud and proud. I went on that podcast, and they didn't mention their defense once. All they wanted to talk to me about, obviously, some of the narratives, and they wanted to talk about Ron Rivera in Washington, and they wanted to talk about our medical staff and, you know, some of the issues we've had there. And I told them the Ryan Fitzpatrick story. They were blown away by that. But I had to change the narrative. Like, hey, I'm not really that concerned about your offense. I'm gonna keep it a buck with y'all. I'm not afraid of Cam Newton. I told you I didn't want him in Washington. And they're all charged. They are really like, oh my God, our offense is about to be stupid with Cam Newton. And I'm like, no, your offense is about to be better than it was because you had one of the worst offenses in the league with Sam Darnold. So anything looks better than Sam Darnold at this point. From what they just went from to what they went to now with Cam, they feel like they got a brand new quarterback. They feel like, oh shit, we got a top 10 situation now. No, it's just because they came from 32nd in the league to now Cam's going to give them a chance to be 20th in the league. But it feels like a greater difference than that. I had to tell him, I'm more terrified of your defense. That's really good. Your secondary is ridiculous. Shaq Thompson is playing as well as any linebacker in the league, and they got two edge rushers that can create problems in Hassan Reddick and Brian Burns. I'm more concerned with that aspect of their team, with Jeremy Chin and Stephon Gilmore and Dante Jackson. I'm more concerned about that aspect of their team than their offense. I'm not afraid of Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. And for as good as Christian McCaffrey is, and I am respectful of him, we haven't had Christian McCaffrey problems here. We just haven't. We've done a good enough job of bottling him up when we've played the Carolina Panthers, and we've seen him with Cam Newton in the same offense, and we've done a good job and beat them here. If you recall, back in 2018, we did it with Alex Smith. So I said all of that to say this. I'm not afraid of the Panthers. I'm not afraid of their offense. I'm more concerned with their defense. But to your point, they're so excited about that win. They're so excited about what this team can be now. They're so excited about Cam coming back and this being their first home game with Cam back in the lineup. They're so excited about a lot of different things with their football team. And I understand all of it. And I know it's going to be like that crowd is going to be so raucous on Sunday. They will be bloodthirsty to start that game. You will think it's a playoff game. They're going to be so amped and charged for Cam's return. He's the beloved son that they felt like should have never been allowed to leave. So now that he's back, and they feel like Cam's never had a supporting cast like this in Carolina. Even the year they went to the Super Bowl, they're like, this supporting cast of Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey and the tight ends Ian Thomas and the kid from Notre Dame that is escaping my brain. I don't know why. I can't think of his name right now. But all of these guys, oh my God, Cam's in heaven. We're in heaven. I'm not concerned. I'm sorry. I missed the memo. But working backwards, the beginning of your comment talked about the narrative and the perception of the two victories. Theirs wasn't a fluke. Ours was. And I talked about that on that same podcast with them. And I said, look, because they asked me, which win? And I knew he asked me the question. And the way he asked me, I knew he was like, I know what you're going to say. And I know how they felt. Like they felt like their win was bigger. And I'm, of course, going to feel like my win's bigger. And I told him, I said, look, I'm not going to sit here and minimize your win because Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins didn't play. But Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins didn't play. You got Colt McCoy. Okay? And he stinks. And you busted him up. He didn't finish the game. He did what Colt McCoy does. Now, I also had to preface that conversation with, yeah, what they did the week before to San Francisco, they could have done to you, and you didn't allow that to happen. So I got to give y'all credit for doing that. Y'all took it to them. But Tom Brady played against us. They had most of their team. No, they didn't have Antonio Brown. They didn't have Gronk. We didn't have guys either. Everybody's got guys out. So that's not an excuse. The bottom line is they had Tom Brady, the GOAT. They didn't have their starting quarterback. Our win is bigger. So was it a fluke? Maybe it was. I've already said, if we play them 10 times, they might beat us 9 out of the 10. And that was the one time we beat them. That's fine. I don't give a shit. You call it whatever you want. We thoroughly dominated those boys. When I went back and watched it, though, I said, they aided and abetted. Sure they did. They had a bunch of pre-snap penalties. The very first play of the game before the Buccaneers even took an offensive snap, they had a false start to start the game off. They were doing dumb shit. That's not our fault. That's all I have to say about that. That's not our fault. They weren't focused. They weren't sharp. They thought they were going to walk in and walk all over us and trample all over us. They were wrong. So everybody else can view it as a fluke. As long as those guys in the locker room know what they did and know what they're capable of now, that's all that matters. And yes, we need to be ready because, as I just told you, that place is going to be rocking. Bank of America Stadium is going to feel like a playoff environment. With Cam Newton back, Lord knows what will happen if they get off to a fast start. It might drown us. We have to come out. It'll be imperative that we get off to a fast start this week, or at least neutralize the start so that the crowd isn't charged for much longer than they need to be, because they're going to be rocking. Thank you for the super chat, King of the North. Rob, you, double up, thank you for doubling up. Rob, you, greatly appreciate you, who writes, is it time to shut down 10 and call Gary Clark up? I told you I would have been shut 10 down, but I'm not there every day. I don't know how far away from being back on the field he is. Terry spoke about his best friend, because we know that number 10 is his best friend. And he's like, I just keep encouraging him to go through the process. He's like, I know it's tough and he really wants to be out there, but you got to listen to your body. And he's like, look, all you can do is continue to put in the work and keep rehabbing. And when that time comes for you to hit the field, you have no doubts and you let it rip. But, it's been frustrating because you're healthy, you're not healthy, you're healthy, you're not healthy. So I would have just been like, all right, bro, this season's a wash. But we say that, and now, it'd be nice to get hot, win another 2 games, and then here comes Curtis Samuel out of nowhere. I'm ready to go. That'd be great. But don't hold your breath. Rob, you, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Rob, you writes, Lou, Sheriff has been a great player for us, but re-signing him to a long-term deal would be a move we regret. His body is beginning to fail him. I don't know if his body is beginning to fail him. I don't know if I necessarily subscribe to that narrative as much as he's just a guy that generally doesn't stay healthy, and he doesn't play all 16 games. Hasn't done that since like 2015 or whatever it was, 2016. So, he got hurt again in this game, but he came back, which we've seen him do that before. He did it in Buffalo where he ran into the stanchion and then left the game briefly and came back. I wouldn't re-sign him. I wouldn't have given him another franchise tag. But again, I'm not the coach. I'm not in that locker room, and I don't know what Brandon Sheriff means to the rest of that locker room. Clearly, Ron Rivera pegged Brandon Sheriff as one of the leaders in that locker room and one of the guys that he felt like was going to help him change the culture in that locker room. So he wanted him to stick around, and he probably still wants him to stick around. So we'll see what happens. I've all along said that this was his last year in Washington. It may not be. Ron continues to talk up Brandon Sheriff. So I don't know. We'll see. Rob, you writes, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you once again, Rob. My guy, Rob, you writes, the Saints and Broncos games sting even more now. They really do. Throw the Chiefs game in there too, but those two in particular sting more now than ever because, they stung before. Like before this game, they stung, but it stings now that we think we might actually have a chance. We wouldn't have to dig ourselves up out of such a deep hole had we won those games. We'd be sitting here at 5-4 right now. You win those 2 games, you're 5-4. And you're 2 games out of first place behind Dallas. And Dallas has the Chiefs this week on the road. And you look at that situation, you say, hey, they find a way to slip up there. We get a win against Carolina on the road, and you're 1 game out of first place. And you got Dallas coming up in 3 weeks. You would really be putting yourself, and we still could put ourselves in a position, where that game against Dallas, I already made the case for Dallas losing 2 out of 3. They got the Chiefs. Then they got a winnable game sandwiched in between Chiefs and Saints on the road on a Thursday night. They got the Raiders on Thanksgiving. I think they're going to beat the Raiders. The Raiders are a mess right now. But I think they could lose on the road at Kansas City. I think they beat the Raiders on Thanksgiving. Then a week later on Thursday Night Football, they've got the Saints on the road in New Orleans. That's a place that's been tough for Dallas to win over the years. I could see them winning that game. I could also see them losing that game. But I made the case that they could lose 2 out of 3. That would put them at 8-4. We could win 3 straight the next 3 weeks. That would make it 4 straight. And we could be at 6-6. And that game against Dallas could be with a chance for us to climb within a game of first place. And that's, that's disrespectful on my part to just ignore the Eagles in all of this as if they don't have a soft schedule. They got the Jets coming up in a couple of weeks, and I think they got the Giants. They got games that are very, very winnable due to the Eagles. So I don't want to, talk about the Eagles. They got the Saints this week at home. They could beat the Saints, especially with the way the Saints are playing. They could beat the Saints. And so I'm dismissing the Eagles like they might not be, trying to get their hands on first place. But I said all of that to say this. Those games sting, not just because of where we are now and what we just did. They stung because they were winnable games against teams we should have beaten. And that's what makes those games. I told you in the moment when we lost to New Orleans, this one stings. I remember saying that the entire week. This stings. I think I even did a short that says why this game stings more than the other losses. I think that was one of the Washington Football Nightly programs, and that was the title of it. Why this one stings more than the others. That one hurt. You had no business losing that game. None. The Broncos game, we didn't have enough confidence. If we had the swag we have now, we would have beat Denver. We didn't have the swag then. We're going through the motions. Guys were focused on, hey, we got our bye week coming up. Let's just get to the bye. That was one of those games that I wish we had another game after that game so that game wasn't before the bye week. I think we might have been focused enough to beat Denver. I think there were some guys mentally fatigued that really needed the bye week, and that Broncos game didn't mean enough to them. I truly believe that. Guys were like, yo, let's just get to the bye, man. What the hell ever. Those games, they hurt more because of what we could be had we won them. But it is what it is. There's no going back. All you can do is try from this point forward to make up for lost time and lost games. Landry Balbin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Landry Balbin writes, hey, Lou, we've been running from the shotgun successfully. What do you think about QB draw runs and read options with the QB running the football? Question. TH can run. So I'm making sense of your comment. We've been running from the shotgun successfully. I think the A just shouldn't be there. What do you think about QB draw runs and read options with the QB running the ball? So I don't love the idea of QB draw unless we're like in the red zone. You spread them out. You get a light box. You get man-on-man blocking, and you fake like you're dropping back, and then you take off. We see it all the time. You don't have to be the most mobile quarterback to pull that off. I like that in that situation. I don't like that in the middle of the football field. But as far as read options are concerned, I think we should do more of those with Taylor Heinecke. I'm not saying that should be a huge part of our offense like it is with Philadelphia or the Baltimore Ravens or one of these teams with a super mobile quarterback, like we'll see this week with Cam Newton and the Panthers, where it's going to be a huge part of their offense. I just say you should do that once or twice a game just to keep the defense honest. So when we run some of those gun runs and Heinecke, sticks it in the belly of Antonio Gibson, you keep that backside defender at home because you just never know when Ford's going to put it. And he's a good enough athlete. He's not a tremendous athlete, but he's a good enough athlete that if you commit, you take a couple of false steps down the line and he pulls it, you can't stop, turn, redirect, and catch him. He's going to run and pick up some yards. So I do think they should do that a little bit more. They've done it once or twice this season, but I don't think they've done it nearly enough to really make an offense think twice about their movements and how they attack our run game. So I do think we could do that. a little bit more. Rob, you. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Rob, you writes, John Allen has been balling, but what's up with Payne? Payne's been Payne. Like, this is the thing. This is what Daron Payne has been throughout his career. Like, he's never been a high sack guy. This is why I hate going down this road, because I don't feel this way as strongly as I once did. I still feel like we should have drafted someone else, but I don't need to rehash that. We've done that enough already, right? But this is why I didn't want him in the first round. He's not a pass rushing threat. I love the Jonathan Allen pick. Why? Because Jonathan Allen was a double-digit sack getter at Alabama. I remember the Superman dive from his final year at Bama, where he literally jumped over a running back to bag a quarterback. It was his, like, the epitome of his highlight reel. Like Jonathan Allen diving over the sky and arms stretched wide and engulfing a quarterback. Like, he had 10.5 sacks at Alabama, that Jonathan Allen. Like, we knew he could do it. Daron Payne never had any pressure. Like, and they tried, it was the scheme, and he wasn't asked to do that at Alabama. He was two gapping, and so now he'll have an opportunity to get after the quarter. Bullshit. Jonathan Allen played in the same scheme, and he got double-digit sacks. Okay, that's just not who Daron Payne is. So Payne is a dominant run defender. He's continuing to do that this year. He plays hard. He plays with good leverage, but he'll get a sack every now and again. But that's really, like that Buffalo game, he should have had 3 sacks if he wasn't being held and they didn't call it. He'll have games like that. We've seen it. In the playoff game, he was the most impressive defender against the Buccaneers last year in the playoffs. He'll have games like that from time to time where you go, look at Daron Payne. He's a stud. But we don't get it enough. We don't get it enough. Not from a pass rushing standpoint. But he's playing well as a run defender. He always does. Irish, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Irish writes, I think many fans are overlooking something when it comes to drafting a quarterback, in that even if we do, Heinecke could still be the starter next year. Facts. But people would be a lot more comfortable knowing that the replacement for Heinecke is already on the roster. See, that's what people have a problem with right now, is that with no replacement, no future quarterback in sight, Heinecke is your de facto long-term answer until you don't have that question anymore, because that guy's already on the roster. So I think people would be fine with Heinecke being, the bridge quarterback, starting the first 3 or 4 games, and then, the young guy getting in there or whatever, starting the first 8 games or 12 games. And then if we're not good enough, the young guy gets in. But what people struggle with is Heinecke being the guy. And so I think people would be okay. Now, if you draft a guy 4th overall, you want to see that guy out of the gates first week of the season. And that may not be the case, but generally speaking, it doesn't do a quarterback much good to sit on the sidelines like it used to. If you've got the right situation for a guy to sit on the sidelines, yeah. Like Trey Lance, he wasn't ready. He needed to sit for a year. So I agree with what Kyle Shanahan is doing, because he only played 1 year of college ball. He needs to learn how to play the quarterback position. So I agree with what they're doing with him in San Francisco. But you get a guy that's a 2, 3, 4 year starter in college, that guy needs to come in here and be ready to play. So even if we draft a guy, Heinecke is still potentially going to be your starter next year. But the new quarterback, the rookie, could also be the starting quarterback. And, the thing that will suck, is going to suck for Heinecke if you draft a quarterback and he's the starter, is at every turn he's looking over his shoulder. And really vice versa. The young guy, if he starts and he's struggling and Heinecke finished up this season strong, you're going to have people calling for Heinecke. If the young fella comes out and like, for instance, what Zach Wilson's doing this season, he's stinking it up. But there's nobody behind him that threatened him. So it was never really a situation where he needed to look over his shoulder. Had Mike White done what he did against Cincinnati, and then Zach Wilson came back the next week, he'd be constantly looking over his shoulder. Oh, I just threw 2 interceptions in the first half. Is he going to bench me? You don't want your quarterback doing that. Now that Mike White stunk it up and he just threw 4 interceptions this past weekend against the Bills, there's none of that left. When Zach Wilson comes back, he's not looking over his shoulder because of Joe Flacco or because of Mike White. He's got the green light to do whatever the hell he does. And if he throws 4 picks, so be it. He's back to where he was before he got injured. But you never want your young quarterback looking over his shoulder. That could happen if Heinecke's here and he finishes this season strong, but we missed the postseason and they draft a young guy. And that young guy comes in and he's struggling and you're like, look, we want to win football games. Because if you draft a young guy and he plays, part of the growing pains of having that young guy in is he's going to make mistakes and you're going to lose football games. And not everybody's built and equipped to deal with that. Just like this year. Heinecke's essentially a rookie quarterback, except he's been in the league, for multiple years. And he's 28 years old. But Heinecke's pretty much a rookie. He hasn't played. He just started a lot of games. But nobody's willing to put up with the mistakes that have to be made in order for a guy to gain the experience. I talk about this all the time. It's not that dissimilar from when you're 16, 17, 18 years old and you got your little garbage resume that you typed up in computer class in 11th grade in 6th period, and you're taking that little resume around and you're trying to get a job, but nobody wants to hire you. Why? Because you don't have any experience. Well, how the hell are you supposed to get experience if you don't want to give it to me? That's the same thing in the NFL. You got to be willing to take the lumps with your quarterback so that he can gain that experience, so that he can get better. And the fan base has to be patient, and the coaching staff has to be patient, and ownership has to be patient. And you got to allow that thing to materialize. Maybe the guy stinks. Maybe he doesn't. But you got to give everything a chance to happen so that you can figure out if he's the guy or not. And that applies to Heinecke in a certain sense. Even though we feel like there are limitations there that, prohibit him from being a real starter, he could be a lot better. And he's shown us the ability to play in this league. So we'll see. Thank you for the super chat, Irish. Matthew Manos, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Matthew Manos writes, our squad did it. HTTR. Yes, we did do it, but it's only one game. We didn't win the Super Bowl. We didn't win the division again, back-to-back years. We just won a game, but it felt good, damn good. Now can we do it again? Kingpin Hill. Thank you for the super chat, Kingpin Hill, who writes, so it's been 3 weeks since we moved LC, Landon Collins, to linebacker. Also 3 weeks of good defensive play. Is he gone next season or does he embrace the change? Oh, well, he's embracing the change right now. So it just really, I think, depends on how they feel about Landon Collins. Like, this is his role in this defense, whether he likes it or not. But guess what? He's still playing safety too. He's still moving around. Like, he's down around the box where he should be for the vast majority of the snaps, but he's still playing deep safety. He played some deep safety in this game. There's evidence of him being back there. So things haven't changed. It's just they've narrowed the focus of what he does in this defense more so than before, where, there would be a lot more snaps of him as a deep safety. Now there are a lot less snaps, but he's still doing that too. He's still doing a little bit of that. But to your point, 3 weeks of Landon Collins playing primarily linebacker. And has it been 3 weeks? I think you're right. I think it's been 3 weeks. I think it started with the Green Bay game. And 3 weeks of him playing really well. So we're going to see, because he was awesome against Green Bay. He was awesome again against Denver. And then you didn't see as many splash plays, but, watching that film, he was excellent again. He was flying around. He was, upon catch, he was there for contact. So I thought he had another strong game, did Landon Collins. So it really just depends on, do they want to pay him? Because now they can get out of his contract with little to no penalty. Do they want him back? Do they want to pay him what he'll be getting And yeah, I mean, really, that's what it boils down to. And but during the season when he was struggling and before the season, we like, oh yeah, this is probably last year Atlanta Collins. I don't know now. I don't know now. He's been really good. This is the Landon Collins we signed up for. So I don't know if this is his last season or not now. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Metaphor, who writes, Ron's just got to make sure confidence doesn't turn to arrogance or expectations. That's why it's called Ron's plan, not Ron's Google Maps shortcut. Exactly. And I don't think he has to explain that to the team as much as the fans need to get that through their thick skulls. Because the team realizes what happens when you get big-headed. That's why we're in this predicament now at 3-6 instead of 5-4 or 6-3, because they thought that they could just show up. And Ron talked about the immaturity, of this team. He said, we're an immature team, and we got to, because we're young, and we got to learn how to deal with adversity. We got to learn to deal with success. And that's the thing that you have to teach a young team, is how to deal with the ups and the downs, the good and the bad. And we got big-headed. And I know you saw the clip. It was only 42 seconds of Ron's victory speech, what they would allow us to see. But in that speech, Ron said, hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's not get carried away. We got to do this again, essentially. But enjoy this. So he made sure to let them know, hey, let's not get big-headed. We did beat the Super Bowl champions, but it's just one game. It doesn't count for 6. It just counts for 1. So I think they understand that. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Metaphor writes, is it odd I'm eating popcorn watching you like Netflix? No, it's not odd, but it is funny. You're just snacking. That's it. Like you're watching anything else. You're just snacking. You just happen to be watching me while you're snacking. That's all. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who also writes, so hype question. Perhaps Carolina wins toss and elects to receive. Then that might be, so trust me, they wouldn't do this. Why? That stadium is going to be so charged and electric. You want the defense to feed off of that energy. So you would want to defer. They're going to defer. But if they were to receive, then that just is them receiving. I wouldn't take it as slight like I did with Tampa, because I don't, like, Carolina isn't in a position to disrespect us. They're not good enough to disrespect us. So I wouldn't take it as disrespect. I would just take it as, oh, okay. They looked at our past history. They looked at our inability to get stops on the opening possession, which, hasn't been the case of late, but they just looked at that and they said, oh, okay, we should be able to do these boys. Let's jump on them early and then let the crowd get into it. Whereas with Carolina, with Tampa Bay, I've seen them play before. I know their MO. That's not what they do. When they're playing good teams, they don't receive. They defer. That was disrespectful. And I felt it right when they kicked us. When the announcer says, because it was funny, I'm in the MOBB, I'm typing, oh, we won the toss. Because in this league, you don't see that anymore. You don't see a team. It's rare. Only the offensive-minded coaches that are still stuck in 1998 do that. I saw the Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski do that one way. I'm like, what are you doing? They received the opening kickoff. They won the toss and received. I'm like, that's dumb. Doesn't make any sense. But I'm typing away and I'm telling everybody in MOBB, we won the toss. Let's go. That's a good sign. And as I'm about to hit send, the announcer, Adam Amin, says, the Buccaneers won the toss and have chosen to receive. And I stopped and I hit delete. Oh, really? Huh. These dirty mother effers. Okay. You disrespectful bastards. So, I wasn't emotionally engaged before the game because I expected an ass whooping. And once that happened, I said, oh, really? So, my disrespect meter started to bleed over into my emotional I give a shit meter because my give a shit meter was at 0. Like, I wanted to win, but I wasn't emotionally invested. I expected a loss. So my give a shit meter went from my disrespect meter went from 10% because everybody disrespected it. I told you what I heard pregame. Jimmy Johnson said they're going to throw for 4 touchdowns. Tom Brady's going to throw for 4 touchdowns against our worst rated pass defense. Phil Simms picked up the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to score the most points of any team in week 10. And I said, you know what? Both of them have the right to feel that way because our defense has given us that track record. It precedes us. Our reputation precedes us. But that doesn't stop me from being disrespected and feeling like they were disrespectful. So my meter was already at 10%. But when they elected to receive, my disrespect meter shot up to 90%. And that shit bled into my I give a shit meter, which now all of a sudden it's at 25%. Oh, really? And then we come out and we get a 3 and out and John Allen hits Tom Brady on 3rd down and my give a shit meter goes up to 50% now. I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do. And then we drive the ball, we get a field goal, and I'm like, okay, that moved it another 5%. It's at 55 now. And then we get the pick. I'm like, oh, okay, these bastards want to take the football first. Oh, yeah, let's get some more points. And we get a field goal, and I'm like, you know what? The shit's up to 70 now. And then we get the next pick, and then we get the touchdown. Okay, I want this shit. Now it's at 90. I want it. And then Chase Young goes down, and the shit hit 110. I got to have it now. So, yeah, it was different against Tampa Bay, okay? If Carolina receives, I won't have that same feeling because they're not in a position to disrespect us. They had the number 7 pick in the draft last year, okay? Their quarterback, Sam Darnold, was absolutely the worst in the league before he got injured, and they went out and got Cam Newton. So they're 5-5 because they got off to a 3-0 start because their schedule was super soft. That's the only difference between us and them. Is they got off to a huge start this season because they played the Jets, they played the Texans, and they played one more team that was ass-tastic to start the season off that got them to the 3-0 start. Then when they started playing good teams, they lost 5 straight. So, or they lost 4 straight, then they won, then they lost and got blown out by New England, then they won again. Now they're 5-5. So I wouldn't take it as disrespect. I just, oh, okay. Good for us. We get the ball after half. That's how I would view it. DCJ, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, DCJ, writes, what's good, Lou? What's good? DCJ, feels like it's been a while. Good to hear from you. Much love, blessings, and prayers to you and all Washington football teams fans. Likewise. He says, not to brag or pat my back, but this Bucks game, kept balance, run it again, and screens. Keep major stuff off of number 4, play D. Like I said, Scott Turner did a really good job of keeping the Bucks on their heels, never really allowing them. And the offensive line did a really good job too. Don't want to discount, even though we had 5 sacks in the game. I told you, I thought 3 of them were on Heinecke. 3 were charged to his account, if you ask me. But yeah, it was a really well orchestrated game plan, really well executed by the players. But got to give credit to Scott Turner for sticking to the run, even when it seemed like times he could have given up because the Bucks had a beat on what we were doing and in the backfield with run blitzes and things of that nature. He never stopped running the football, and that was huge in the outcome. DCJ, again, thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, DCJ. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, yo, don't worry if it's 1 or 2 yards. Run the ball. The O is not a shootout built O. Even if healthy, run it, stay balanced, keep it simple for number 4, field position, good D. Formula was shown, stick to it. You can only do that for so long, though. Like, if it's 2 yards, it's fine. You get 2 on first down, 2 on second down, it's 3rd and 6. You don't want to be in 3rd and 6 all the time, but you can convert 3rd and 6. If you run it on first down, run it on second down, and you get 1 and 1, it's 3rd and 8. You don't want to be in 3rd and 8. That's not an advantageous down and distance. So you have to be careful with that mindset of run it. Don't stop running it, run it. And you don't want to be predictable either. You don't want to run it on every first and second down. You want to mix it up. You want to mix up the play call. You want to keep them off balance. Are they running this? Are they, I thought that just as instrumental in the success of the run and Scott Turner's play calling was how he mixed it up. Like I talked about that fake toss boot to Dax Milne. That's awesome. He had another play action fake where he got out and got it to Cam Sims. It was only like a gain of 3, but still, it's moving the pocket. It's giving the Buccaneers something else to think about. I've been begging for us to move the launch point all season. I've said this, calling plays in the league, I'd love to do it. It can't be that hard. Sometimes I think these coordinators make things harder than it needs to be. They overthink the situation. He did a really good job of keeping the Buccaneers off balance. King of the North. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, King of the North, writes, we've been talking about finding our identity. Did the win over the Bucs help us with that? If so, what do you think that identity is? I don't think that we have a clear identity yet. I think, like Ron said, or Scott Turner said this, not Ron. Scott Turner said our identity needs to be whatever we need to be that week, like pretty much what Bill Belichick said. Our identity is adaptability, being able to be malleable and be able to shape shift into whatever you need to be for that week to be successful. If the team you're playing against is the number 1 rush defense in the league and they're giving up only 60.1 yards a game, despite teams trying to run it, 27 times a game, but they're only giving up 60.1 yards. Probably not the smartest idea to go up against them looking to have a heavy run game plan. But if that same team that's got all that great run defense is 27th in the league in stopping the pass, just do that, right? That makes a ton of sense. They struggle in that department. So I think that's what our identity is. But would Scott Turner like every game to play out the way that this one did? Yeah, absolutely. Where he remains balanced. We run the football. We have timely conversions on 3rd down. We stay in 3rd and manageable. Like that final drive, that's how he wants this thing to go moving forward. You know what I'm saying? How many times in that drive were we in 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, the Terry catch with a 3rd and 5, the catch, the Adam Humphries catch, 3rd and 4. That's what you want to be in. Those are convertible 3rd downs with the top down. Those are convertible 3rd downs. You don't want to be in 3rd and 8. We weren't in 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 11. And when we were, we picked up some yards, but we didn't get the first down a lot of times. Like we were in 3rd and 14. Heinecke ran for 11. Made it a much closer field goal. But you don't want to be in that situation. Had it been 3rd and 8, that would have been a first down, but it was 3rd and 14. We did a really good job of staying out of those situations. We didn't have a bunch of holding penalties. We had like 1 or 2 pre-snap penalties. Ricky Seals-Jones had a false start that, got us one time, but for the most part, it was the Buccaneers with the pre-snap penalties. We stayed away from that, and we're not good enough to have a 2nd and 7 holding penalty, and now it's 2nd and 17. That's not us. We have to play clean ball, and that's why the officials, I thought, had a really strong game. I really thought that that crew, I'd vouch for them to do Washington games any day of the week. Give me those dudes the rest of the season every week. I know that's not going to be the case, but give me those guys. Don't give me the soft crew that wants to call every damn thing, every little ticky-tacky, touchy thing you want to call that. We've had some bad officiating crews this season. Terrible. That was the best one by far. Wasn't even close. I don't think we have an identity other than we need to do whatever is necessary to be successful. I guarantee you Scott Turner wants every game to look like it did this game because we were highly successful, but every game's not going to play out this way. DCJ, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, I knew Washington football team had a legit shot. Number 87 or AB. No 87 or AB. That made a huge difference. You know, no AB. He killed us last year in the playoff game. No Gronk. He's a huge red zone. Like when Brady gets into the red zone, he's looking for his tight ends. He's looking for Mike Evans. He's looking for his tight ends. Those are the big targets. He misses Gronk in the red zone. That's where he misses him the most. That's where the guy that he has the most synchronicity with and the most chemistry. And so, yeah, they got down there a couple of times and couldn't get it in. Had he had Gronk, might have been a different story. Had he had AB, might have been a different story. Sure, absolutely. Chauncey Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Chauncey Davis, the OG, writes, Lou, it's hard to stay focused and do your job and all those cliches when you're losing. In spite of some of the questionable decision, Ron's still in control. And that's important. But you also have to, and that's why I put that video out, one of those giving you game videos about what Jonathan Allen had to say, because I've been telling you guys this for years. And to go back to Jared's point of wanting to lose and get draft position and not wanting to make the playoffs, I'm like, dude, that's a losing mentality. And when you've got young players, which this team is extremely young, when you got young players, it's hard for them to receive the message that you're giving them when you're constantly losing. Like Deron Payne said, look, man, I don't give a shit who the opponent is. We need some dubs, man. Like, that's all anybody wants to talk about is, hey, we need to win. Losing sucks. And all that stuff you're talking about, we need to do it this way, we need to do it that way. If we're not getting wins, why can't I just do it my way? That's what young guys start to think. Like, you keep telling me that this is the right way. How do I know it's the right way? We not winning no games? Young guys have to see results. They need success in order to know that what they're doing is the right thing. And that's anything that you're doing. You could be a peewee basketball coach. And you telling me I need to run these drills. But every week we're getting slaughtered by 26. You sure you know what you're doing, coach? I had a high school coach. Used to run us to death. Like, coach, we won. Why we got to run so much? He says, son, you'll know. And when we would get to the fourth quarter and the other team, and we pressing the shit out of them, and we running all over the court, and their tongues are dragging and hanging on the floor, that's when we knew that's why we run. That's why we run. Because in the fourth quarter, when they're dog tired, we still got energy. We running around and we having fun. Because this ain't nothing. This ain't practice is kicking ass. This is nothing. But the only reason you feel good about it is because when you get to the game, you see why you did what you did and you got results. You see the success. So now when you got to run these suicides on the line, suicides, and he blow that whistle and you're like, come on, man. You are less likely to push back, even though you don't want to run the damn suicides, because you know it works. And that's what you have to do. You got to get these guys to understand that this works. If you just do it this way, it works. The only way that message gets through is by winning. And so wanting to lose and not make the playoffs, that shit falls on deaf ears. Because ultimately, you may get a quarterback that may help you win more games, but those young guys aren't seeing that. They just think we stink. Why am I listening to this coach again? He don't know what he's talking about. He said that what we were doing before wasn't right, but we went 7-9 with Jay Gruden. Shit, we 5-12. Why should I listen to him? And that's what I'm saying. You just don't want players that to seep into their brains. So it's hard to get guys on board when you keep losing. You got to win. They got to see that there's a reason why we're doing the things the way we're doing them. Thank you for the super chat, Chauncey Davis. Got another one here from King of the North. Greatly appreciate you, King of the North, who writes, I remember Scott Turner has his worst game play calling versus Carolina last year. I think he's learned a lot since then. Let's hope anyways. He said, let's hope so anyways. Last year against Carolina was his worst game. I agree, because that was the game that the Carolina Panthers were running that 3-3-5 defensive scheme. We had light boxes. Gibby came back, and he was getting 7 a pop, and he refused to run it. He thought that throwing it 80 times with Dwayne Haskins was the way to win that football game, and Dwayne was terrible. And all he had to do was keep running the football. They couldn't stop it. So hopefully he has learned his lesson since then. We'll see. Last game looked like a guy that's continuing to evolve as a play caller. And I tried to explain that to you guys last year and this year. Like, Scott Turner is pretty much new at this as well. Like, everybody just expects him to be this offensive savant and not make any mistakes and not go through growing pains. He's a first-time offensive play caller himself. This is his second full year of being an offensive play caller. So he's learning too. And that's why I was hard on him about situational awareness, but overall, he's doing a good job. That's just something that he has to continue to work to develop, is situational awareness. It's getting better, or at least it was better last game. The true test will be consistency, much like everything else I've talked about with this team, with this coaching staff, with Taylor Heinecke, with this defense. Consistency. Same thing applies to Scott Turner. Consistency is the key. Landry Baldwin. Double up. Thank you for the super chat and doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, sorry for the typo earlier. Yeah, you threw me for a loop. You had me over here questioning my reading skills for a second. Like, damn, is my comprehension low? He says, I meant to say we've been running out of the shotgun successfully. Maybe we can do read options and run with Taylor instead. No, I knew what you were trying to say once I made sense of it. I think we should run Taylor just slightly more, not a ton. Like, I don't want him in harm's way. First of all, he's not Cam Newton. He's not 6'5", 245 pounds. He's not, Jalen Hurts, 6'2", 225, 230. He's not a thick-framed quarterback. Lamar Jackson's a skinny toothpick, but he's fast as shit and he knows how to get down. Like, and he's physical, even with his running style. Like, that's not Taylor Heinecke. Heinecke is literally, I told you, I cringe every time he gets hit. Every time he gets hit, I cringe like, oh, get up. Like, I told you that play where he thought he was Joe Montana in the playoffs against the Giants in '86, where he rolled out and stopped, avoided the defender and stopped just like Montana did. And then Leonard Marshall came from behind and lambasted him and he fumbled the ball. And the Giants went on and won that game and went to the Super Bowl and beat the Denver Broncos that year. He did that same shit. And I'm watching it. I'm like, oh my God. He is trying to Joe Montana his way out of this game. And he got plastered on that play. And I was nervous, but he popped right back up. But every time he gets hit, I get nervous. So I don't want him taking a lot of hits. But every now and again, they should throw one in there just to keep the defense somewhat honest. DCJ, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy DCJ writes, Lou, I agree all with what you're saying. Washington football team doesn't run the ball consistently enough. Regardless of yards, keep major decisions out of number 4's hands. My opinion, out of the 6 L's, run it more, QB or not. As long as you're having enough success to justify continuing to run the football, I'm all for it. My problem is when you continue to run and you're not having success, or you don't run it enough and you're having success. There's got to be a balance there. And sometimes it's like walking a tightrope, without a circus net. I'm a nervous wreck. It can get like that sometimes. But for me, I think Scott Turner's problem is more so leaned towards we're having success, he just doesn't stick to it, than, we're not having success, but you got to find a way to power through that and keep running it. I thought he did a really good job in this game because there were a number of tackles for loss in the game to where he could have gotten antsy and gotten away from the run, but he never did. And I thought that was key. And I think some of it was situational because, put it this way, had we been playing against Daniel Jones and the New York Giants, I don't think he sticks with the run. Here's why. He's not Tom Brady. He doesn't feel like I need to play clock control, keep Brady on the sidelines. I don't need to keep Daniel Jones on the sidelines. Who's Daniel Jones? F him. Let's throw the football. Like, I think a lot of what we saw, and that's why I'm not too quick to give him credit, like, oh, he's figured it out. Like, I think that was more situational by Scott Turner. I think he was thinking, yo, that's Tom effing Brady over there. We need to try to shorten this game as much as possible. The less possessions he has, the better it is for us. So we got to keep running the football. We got to keep this clock running. Whereas, again, if it's Daniel Jones we're playing against, if we're playing against Trevor Lawrence, we're playing against, a lesser team with a quarterback situation that's not necessarily the best right now. We're playing against Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. I think he's throwing the ball around the field. He's not running it as much. I don't think Gibby has 24 carries. I think he only has 17. So I think a lot of what we saw had to do with the fact that we were playing 12. I could be wrong. We'll see this week. DCJ, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy DCJ writes, run it more, keep balance. 4 is not Rodgers or 12. Facts. They know that. But at the same time, they feel like he can run the offense. And if they feel like they need to throw it, they feel like he can get it done. But I think most people would agree with you. He's not Rodgers. He's not Rodgers or Brady. We know this to be a fact. But they feel like he can do enough to get us where we need to go. So we'll see. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Metaphor writes, like a solid deuce, you need consistency. Mic drop. Facts. I tell you a quick story. It was the 8th grade when I figured out you were supposed to go and drop a deuce every day. You were supposed to go number 2 every single day. My diet back in those days consisted of Hostess iced honey buns. The occasional lunchroom French fries were to die for. They were awesome. And a Minute Maid fruit punch. That was my diet every day. That's what I ate every day at school for lunch. And I would go to the bathroom once a week. And I thought that was normal until my PE teacher in the 8th grade, Mr. Haynes, he's a funny dude, cracked me up, talked funny, looked funny, all of that good stuff. He was a funny looking. He's like, hey, and he had a deep voice, hey. And his teeth were always like this when he talked. Hey, you're supposed to use the bathroom every day. I go every single day. Supposed to move your bowels every day. I'm like, what? That was news to me. Are you serious? You're supposed to do a number 2? I haven't gone and the count might have been 10 days. I hadn't gone and moved my bowels. My Dewey denim was on fire. My colon was begging for help. But when you're young, you get away with stuff like that. As you get older, Since I've become vegan, it's like clockwork. So to your point, you need consistency, just like that. That's what we're begging for. We've hit we've hit singles 3 times this year. We need a double now, then a triple. Then we can start talking crazy about possibly hitting a home run. That's right, JB Johnson. I didn't know if anybody was going to get it, JB. I didn't know if anybody was going to get it. But obviously, you a hip-hop head. You get it. You got it. Tony P56. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Tony P56 writes, Scott Turner loves to run out of shotgun with no lead blocker. That 4th and 1 TD had me nervous. Do you think we need to run more lead block runs? That's not their offense. That's not their offense. They run out of single back. They run out of the gun. There is no lead blocker in the offense that they run. And the 4th and 1 always makes me nervous because if all it takes is one guy, like when we played Atlanta and Grady Jarrett beat Eric Flowers, that's all it takes. That's all it takes. But that's on any run. Even if you got a fullback, if that fullback's going up the A gap to the right of the quarterback and the penetration is from the A gap on the backside, that fullback's not going to turn and block that. This isn't Madden. He's not going to turn and pick up the nearest defender. He's going to run up the gap that he's supposed to run. And if that guy gets penetration on the backside, you're still getting tackled for loss and you're not going to pick up the first down. But I wasn't nervous because you know why? We had picked up every single short yardage situation in the game. Like our O-line was fantastic. So I wasn't nervous. I wasn't nervous. And even if we didn't get it, which was a possibility, I said they got to go 99. I was confident that with no timeouts, they weren't going to go 99 yards. So I was cool, but I wanted the touchdown. I wanted to end with an exclamation point. I didn't want to have to sweat out, a couple of completions. They get out of bounds. We give up a chunk play, and next thing you know, they're at midfield. And I'd heard this 2 weeks ago when somebody had a Hail Mary that worked. Brady was like, man, you know what? Brady was on the Eli Manning, the Manning pod megacast a couple of weeks ago, and he said, I haven't had a Hail Mary in my career. I've watched Rodgers and all these quarterbacks get one. I haven't gotten any in my career. That's the one thing I haven't done yet. And I'm like, look, don't let this shit be this week. So I'm glad we didn't have to experience that. But I wasn't nervous. DCJ, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy DCJ writes, my whole point, success or not, sell it for passes. But this is the thing. If it's not successful, the defense isn't going to respect a fake. They're not selling out to stop run if you're getting one, or you're losing yards or it's no gain. They're not selling out. They only sell out when the run is working and is effective. That's when those high-low reads start to come into play. That's when play-action fake is at its greatest, when they got to come up and respect what you're doing. So it needs to work. Sometimes the consistency of running the football supersedes what you're gaining. But that's not always the case. Rarely the case, in fact. You need to have success with the run to keep running it in order for it to work and play action fake to benefit because of it. There are some times where just the mere fact that you're running, even if it's not yielding you any tangible yards or benefit from a yardage standpoint, sometimes that is necessary to loosen things up. But a lot of times that's not how things work. You got to have some success in order for it to truly benefit you. Landry Balbin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Landry Balbin writes, Deshaun Watson would be the perfect QB for our style of offense. I'd trade Sweat and the first-round pick for him. He would be a great fit, but obviously they don't want him. He's not welcome here. Okay. Ron's made it abundantly clear that character matters. And even if Deshaun Watson truly didn't do anything wrong other than he's a serial massage therapist, happy ending, pretty much he's a hoe is what he is. Even if that's the only crime he's guilty of, which he didn't do anything wrong, he just likes to be with different women. Ron's like, nah, we good. Because even if that's the case, why you got all these women filing complaints against you? Nah, we good. So, I mean, I told you, I'm never one to shoot down any man's dream. I'm just telling you that more likely than not, it's not going to happen. But he would be perfect for this offense. This is the kind of offense that's tailor-made for a quarterback like Deshaun Watson. Facts. Tony P56, double up, Greatly appreciate you. Tony P56, right? Still Seist and eating curry goat. Super Bowl bound. LOL, question mark. Nah. You can keep munching on that curry goat all you want, but don't start talking crazy. Again, I told you I wasn't going to start using the P word. I was going to start talking about all these scenarios and why not us. But you haven't heard me once say that, this team can do this, that, and the third. I just said, why not us? Because it's so wide open. But if we win next week, that's when I'll start talking crazy. That's when I'll start coming up with all these scenarios. You think the Dallas Cowboys one I came up with was crazy? Let us beat Carolina and win 2 straight and have a date with the Seattle Seahawks on a Monday night coming. Oh, hell. I'm going to have all these different scenarios of how we can do this, that. Let the Cowboys lose to the Chiefs. I'm going to be talking so much shit. You're going to be like, Louie T, you done lost your damn mind. You would think we won 6 in a row and we are Super Bowl bound. Let us win 2 in a row. Anyway, I digress. Tony P56, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Tony P56 writes, icy white honey buns. Ooh, there I am. Hashtag Project Pat. That's right. I used to crush them joints. And I was weird because I didn't like the ones that had the wet white frosting, which meant it was fresh. I wanted the ones that were semi-stale with the white frosting that froze over like old snow that was outside that was cold, that's crunchy. I wanted it to be hard white ice and that if you snapped it, it would crack. Those were so good. Almost sort of chalky when you would bite it. Those days, boy, when you could eat anything you wanted and no repercussions. Those days have come and they are long gone. Anyway, I digress. That, my friends, is going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I have no more comments. This was a fun show. I got no participation from you guys last week. That's why I was over in like 2 seconds. So it felt good to chop it up with you guys this week. And I think last week I was a little down too because I just expected us to lose. And we were coming off of a bye, so there wasn't a ton of content. And it was in and out. But, after that win, everybody's excited. We're emotionally charged. We got all these things dancing through our heads. This show was fun. It's a lot to process, but now we have to turn our attention to Carolina. Like, seriously, tomorrow we'll take our first look at the Panthers. I think we'll get a more clearly defined injury situation tomorrow with who practices, who doesn't. Can we get Logan Thomas off of the side field and on to the practice field for a limited practice? Can I just get an LP? LP, are you with me? Can I just get one LP out of Logan? We'll see. If not, Tamarick Hemingway, here we come. I laugh to stop from crying. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on Washington Football Nightly Live. I am a Washington fan etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold until we meet again. Hail to our beloved Washington football team. I will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully with some good news from practice and some updates that'll bring a smile to your face. And someone in the comment section was asking about Dyami Brown. So let me clear this up because I was wrong. Dyami Brown not only dressed, he played last week. I just didn't notice him because he was in and then he was out. Like, he's not even on the injury report, as you can see. He's healthy. He's fine. And it wasn't until I watched one of the website little cut-ups that they do, that I saw Dyami Brown walking off the field with Charles Leno Jr. And they were both talking, excited about the win. I'm like, Dyami, you look like you got in the game, but he was fully clean though. But he had on his jersey, everything. And I saw Sam Cosmi on the sideline. He had on his jersey. So both of those guys were active last week. But Cosmi didn't play. He was break in case of an emergency. There was no emergency, so he didn't have to play. Meanwhile, Dyami got in. I saw him running in motion on one play. I was like, oh, there he is. So he played. He's fine. They just decided to go in a different direction. I think you might see more Dyami moving forward. Maybe you won't. Maybe they'll continue to go with Dax Mill. DeAndre Carter has the hot hand right now. So maybe they will continue to go with the guys that are producing for them. But I think they're going to work Dyami Brown in some more. I think you're going to see more of him as they get more and more comfortable with him and his health. Now that he's no longer on the injury report, I think they work him back into this offense and integrate him and get him some touches. So we'll see this upcoming week. But I just did want to clarify that real quick. But in any event, I'm going to get out of here. So should you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for joining me. You guys were awesome tonight. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap. Hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40.